Hello to all fans of Naruto Lemon. I will post all Naruto Lemon Yaoi, Yuri, or Naruko Lemon stories only on the Boosty channel because Uncle YouTube condemns this. Therefore, I invite everyone who wants Naruto Lemon content to my Boosty channel. Good luck.
お前はどこまで見えている俺の死に様か
Finally feeling a soft bed, and not the cold floor of the tower. She was in a good mood, so she cheerfully jumped from her sleeping place, quickly did all the water procedures, got dressed and went down for breakfast, or rather, late breakfast or early lunch. As Naruto felt, only Kushina was in the house, so Uzumaki calmly walked into the kitchen. "Naruto?" Kaa-chan asked in surprise. "I wonder if she has already forgotten that I also live in this house?" Kurama just chuckled at this question. "Hi, Kaa-chan." Uzumaki bowed slightly. Kushina quickly put food on her plate, placed it on the table, and smiled shyly at her daughter. "I heard that you defeated Niji in battle," said the former Jinchuriki. Naruto just nodded her head. She didn't have time for intimate conversations, because her team was already waiting for her. Shikamaru and Sasuke should have already been at the Team 10 training ground along with their sensei. Uzumaki quickly ate her breakfast and was about to get up from the table when Kushina's voice stopped her. "Leaving so soon? You just returned." "The team is waiting for me, I need to train," Naruto said calmly. She thanked her mother and left the house. When Naruto approached the training ground, she felt the chakras of not only her team, but also several others. Somehow Itachi ended up there. However, this was not what struck her. Naruto clearly felt the chakras of Jiraiya and Tsunade. This made her heart beat faster and her legs stopped moving. Naruto froze next to the training ground, trying to come to her senses. It had been so long since she felt such native and close chakras to her. Jiraiya's death was a big blow to Naruto, but at that moment she couldn't afford to let herself fall apart. Uzumaki mourned him after the Fourth Shinobi War, remembering all the moments, everything he taught her. She understood that Jiraiya had become one of her closest people. And when the Sannin died, he took with him a piece of the young Uzumaki's soul. And Tsunade, after giving up her post to Kakashi, left the village. Naruto had only seen her twice since the war, when she came to visit. Naruto pulled herself together and walked closer to all the panelists. Jiraiya and Tsunade were the same as in their home world. The woman still frowned and was indignant, Jiraiya still smiled and laughed. Their appearance was the same, which made it several times more painful. Even Kurama was silent, probably understanding how difficult it was for the Jinchuriki now. "Naruto, we are waiting only for you," Obito exclaimed when he saw the girl. Then everyone else looked at her. "Naru-chan, my girl." Lady Tsunade smiled. The shreks of her face smoothed out, her eyes lit up when she saw her goddaughter. The Uzumaki slowly approached them and was immediately captured in a tight hug. Tsunade squatted down, holding her tightly to her. Naruto wrapped her arms around her neck and buried her face in her hair. Then she felt a gentle and soft kiss on the top of her head and warm hands on her back. "We miss you so much, Naru-chan." Jiraiya's quiet voice rang out. Uzumaki held back her tears with all her might. No one should see her weakness now. "Tsunade-bachan, Ji-san," Naruto said quietly, and the two Sanins laughed. Uzumaki called them the same as the local girl called them before they left the village, and she closed herself off. Her godparents let her go. She looked at them with a shy smile. When the welcoming hug ended, Naruto walked over to Shikamaru and Sasuke. The latter, unnoticed by everyone, touched her hand, squeezing it lightly, and released it. Nara put his hand on her shoulder, holding her close to him for a second. "What we were talking about?" Kakashi asked when everyone was ready to talk again. "About training," Shikamaru said lazily. "I will train in the clan, my father is ready to improve me in clan techniques. But in addition to clan ones, I also need elemental ones. I need lightning, Kakashi-sensei." Sasuke chuckled. Your Chidori would be just right. Of course, the Uchiha could master this technique himself, but that would be strange. Hatake would clearly be confused by the fact that the student knew his personal technique, which he did not show him. Okay, we will master Chidori with you. If there is time left, you will go to study with Itachi and Obito. Genjutsu is useful against Kankuro, as is the element of fire. Kakashi nodded. Sasuke glanced at his brother, who, for some unknown reason, went with him to the meeting with the team today. Obviously, this is why he came. Itachi wanted to train his little brother. But this was his desire? Or Fugaku sent his eldest son so that the youngest would not disgrace the honor of the clan. And the Hyuga would not refuse to accept Sasuke as a guarantee of good relations. Sasuke didn't care about either of these, but he did have a desire to fight a strong opponent. While Sasuke is training with Kakashi, I'll take care of you, Shika. Obito entered. During the day you will train with the clan, in the evening you will develop spontaneous ones. Problematic. Nara sighed. Tsunade and I are taking on Naruto. Jiraiya nodded. Naruto felt with some pleasure the anticipation of training spreading through her body. Gaara is a Jinchuriki, said Naruto. He is a very strong shinobi for his age. He controls the sand. Jinchuriki versus Jinchuriki? Tsunade was surprised. Apparently, the news that Naruto was the host of a demon was not new to anyone. The same Shikamaru did not react to this, continuing to lean on the girl's shoulder. No one knows how the tailed ones will behave if their Jinchuriki meet in battle. This could turn into a complete disaster. If Kurama had not been on Naruto's side for 10 years, and Shikaku had continued his attempts to take over Gaara's body, then Tsunade's words would have made sense. But Uzumaki was 100% sure of the Kyuubi. She didn't know how the raccoon would behave. She wasn't sure about him at all. However, she believed in Gaara. Give it to Kami, nothing will happen. Naruto, of course, didn't talk about all this. It takes a lot of training. Obito sighed. I'm afraid we won't make it in time. Are there any other options? Itachi spoke up. He glanced at his little brother, who furrowed his brows and folded his arms over his chest. They need intensive training. Lots of planned workouts. We'll take on Naruto. We even have a training plan. Jiraiya smiled. Although. What are you planning? Tsunade sighed wearily. Everything is clear with young Nara too. Clan training will be better than everything else combined. And Obito-kun will help him with the elements. The Sannin was still smiling. What if Sasuke is sent with Orochimaru? There was silence. Even the birds stopped singing and the Konokovites stopped talking in the streets. Obito opened his mouth to say something, but immediately closed it. Kakashi and Shikamaru looked phlegmatically at the clouds, completely unwilling to comment on this statement. Naruto and Itachi rubbed their foreheads at the same time, the younger Uchiha visibly tensed. Tsunade looked at her husband like he was the biggest idiot in the world and said, "Have you gone completely crazy in your old age? Firstly, Orochimaru is crawling around somewhere in his dungeons. Do you want to throw a mouse at him and lure him out so that he can train Sasuke and gradually get tanned?" Senju snorted. Secondly, this snake has not communicated with anyone for several years. His interlocutors are flasks and cones. Although I don't know, maybe he still talks to the underground inhabitants. On its own, so to speak, underground. Jiraiya began. Thirdly, if you want to kill the boy, then just start training him yourself. Tsunade concluded. He can teach Sasuke interesting techniques. The Sannin shrugged. Naruto remembers what interesting techniques Orochimaru taught her friend in his home world. Yes, and why release him? You can send Sasuke there. Can I interrupt you? Itachi intervened. Do you want to send my little brother to the serpent's lair? To Orochimaru, who only goes for interrogations and tests. Who has forgotten what a normal conversation is? The genius of the clan spoke slowly. Jiraiya-san, you will forgive me, of course, but I want to see a living and, preferably, sane brother. You always believed in Orochimaru too much. Tsunade sighed. And you always had a lot of idiotic ideas. The Uchiha himself did not want to go to study with Orochimaru at all. Sasuke quite remembered the techniques that the serpent used, but, again, the problem was that he could not master them without Orochimaru himself. Otherwise, knowledge of the snake's personal techniques without the knowledge of that same snake will cause many problems for the young Uchiha. And if he could solve something with the techniques, then calling his beloved snakes without Orochimaru was impossible. Uzumaki suggested using the call without a contract, which was extremely risky. However, it is not a fact that the Uchiha will end up with the snakes, and this call was important for Sasuke. And today they have learned a lot of new things, it should be noted. Orochimaru is in Konoha under the watchful control of the Hokage. He does not kill anyone, does not experiment on living people, does not change bodies, and a lot of other no's. Was there a possibility that Orochimaru would want to take over Sasuke's body, as he did in his home world? This probability was very huge, because, as Uchiha understood from the conversation of the Sanins, Orochimaru was limited in his powers and actions, but this did not affect his personality in any way. So going to Orochimaru would be a stupid and illogical decision. And Sasuke was sure that if he did go to him, Naruto would kill both Orochimaru and Sasuke at the same time. Uzumaki was not going to let the Uchiha into the snake's lair again as a mouse in the literal mother.ing sense. But Sasuke needed the call anyway. And if it is not possible to get snakes, the Uchiha uses a call without a seal. Uzumaki herself told him several months ago that she wanted to do this. Although she truly loved her toads, she felt that her real, true calling should be different. I'll master Chidori with Kakashi-sensei, then I'll join the clan. Our clan training is not only in Jinjutsu, but also in ninjutsu and taijutsu. Sasuke interrupted everyone. But I want to get a call. And I use the call without the seal. Sasuke, no. Itachi said seriously. Everyone else thought about it. It is very dangerous. I'm not asking your permission, Nii-san. My life, my rules. The younger Sharinganist nodded. Obito sighed heavily, knowing full well that only death could convince the student. Everything is clear with Shikamaru and Naruto. I will also master the call. Uzumaki said quietly but confidently. Jiraiya looked at her with raised eyebrows. We will teach you my calling. Her godfather said firmly. No, I will also use the summon without the seal. Jiraiya was about to say something, but Tsunade interrupted him. Are you sure, my girl? Of course, Tsunade-bachan. Naruto nodded. Ji-san, can we talk about this later? I'll explain everything to you. Shikamaru, I hope you are not going to give in to such a stupid impulse as these young people? Senju asked, looking at the representative of the Nara clan. No, the amount of my chakra is not large enough to use the call. For now, anyway. The guy shrugged. We'll talk to you later. The woman promised. If we show the call right now, are you ready to repeat it? Jiraiya asked. Naruto and Sasuke nodded at the same time. Then let's not waste time. It is still unknown how your journey will turn out. When the Sannin told everything about the summoning technique and showed an example by summoning a small toad, he told the genin to repeat after him, investing a large amount of chakra. Naruto and Sasuke just shrugged. Be careful. I don't intend to look for another team. Shikamaru finally said. The Uzumaki suppressed the urge to be sarcastic. She glanced briefly at Itachi, who was looking at his little brother with his arms folded across his chest with an expressionless face. Obito and Kakashi nodded to Naruto when they noticed her looking at them. Jiraiya and Tsunade smiled. She looked at Sasuke last. The Uchiha looked somewhere into the sky with a concentrated face. Feeling his lover's gaze on him, the Uchiha turned in her direction. Don't be stupid, Uchiha. she said quietly, meaning too many things by these words. Sasuke understood this. As always. He grinned back, conveying everything he was experiencing. They simultaneously bit their finger, made seals, and pressed their hand to the ground. And then they also simultaneously disappeared into the white fog, leaving everyone else in the clearing. And why did I get such a team? Kakashi asked phlegmatically. And everyone realized that it was not disappointment in their abilities, but pride. I'm asking myself the same question. Obito and Shikamaru nodded. Naruto found herself in the forest. It was a beautiful forest with giant trees. The branches were located high from the ground, each small branch stretched towards the sun, but behind the green tops the sky was almost invisible. The girl wasn't even sure whether it was night or day in this world now. Naruto walked into the thicket. The forest was truly mesmerizing with its beauty. It was quite gloomy, but this did not deprive it of its beauty. On the contrary, it made the forest a more mysterious place. Small glowing lanterns, fireflies, were flying around. However, they did not flicker with the usual warm light, their light was bright blue. Little creatures flew everywhere and landed on Naruto, as if they were trying to understand her, recognize her, feel her. The air was saturated with freshness and warmth. Uzumaki inhaled the sweet aromas of some flowers and berries. Naruto was surrounded by calm. Hairs? Uzumaki suggested. So that you have hairs? Don't make me laugh. Kurama's voice rang out. Suddenly, in the bushes, not far from Naruto, something rustled. Some animal ran past the girl and dived into other thickets. Uzumaki followed the sound. Making her way through bushes, grass, and other plants, the Jinchuriki came out into a huge clearing, which was surrounded on all sides by forest, but in this particular place there were no fireflies. In the center of the clearing, Naruto saw a majestic statue. Fox? Uzumaki asked in surprise. Not that I'm surprised. Naruto walked closer to the statue. She felt the energy emanating from this monument, felt its strength and power. The girl extended her hand to the fox and felt some kind of barrier around this place falling. She touched the statue, which infused some strange but pleasant energy into her body. Looking at the fox, Naruto saw a small flicker. It was similar to that emitted by fireflies in the forest. Hi, stranger. A voice sounded from Naruto's right. She turned her head and saw a large white fox, the size of a girl's shoulder. It was a truly beautiful animal. The fox's fur, bright white with blue stripes, glistened in the sun, releasing small reflections. Her eyes, a rich blue color, Naruto's eyes were almost the same, stood out clearly on her pointed face. Her small, neat nose was surrounded by shimmering whiskers, and her ears were tipped with blue tassels. Her tail moved from side to side, making strange patterns in the air. Hi. Uzumaki said politely. I must admit that we were not expecting guests. We haven't been visited for hundreds of years, young Kunoichi. Lisa nodded her head slightly. My name is Jima, I am the second oldest fox in the pack. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, said the Jinchuriki. Our elder wants to meet with you. Follow me. Naruto didn't even think about arguing. She followed the silver fox forward. The girl wanted to ask a lot, but decided to leave the questions for the elder. They made their way through the forest, went further and further, and the fireflies again circled around the young Uzumaki. When they finally emerged from the thicket of the forest, Naruto saw a huge clearing, several times larger than the previous one. Small foxes were running around, large foxes were walking around, but none of them looked like Jima. A very strange place, Naruto concluded. Maybe I'll ask a stupid and illogical question, but did it ever feel different for you? Kurama quipped. Jima and Naruto reached the elder. It was truly a beautiful and majestic fox, her size exceeded the size of Jima. Her fur was bright blue. The sun was shining, creating highlights and patterns, reflecting off the fur. The eyes, on the contrary, were silver in color. Pointed Shrek's muzzle, small nose and ears with blue tassels. The tail fell calmly and did not somersault, as was the case with Shima. "Hi, stranger." This is the second time Naruto has heard such a strange address to herself. "My name is Izumi. I am an elder." Uzumaki bowed to her, which earned her obvious respect from the fox. "I know you have a lot of questions." She glanced towards Shima, who, nodding her muzzle, stepped aside. "You're right." Naruto didn't deny it. "I'll tell you about our world. And then, if you still have questions, Wanderer, you will ask them to me." The elder began her story. It turned out that Naruto ended up in the Forest of Truth. This place got its name because everyone who visited here found themselves. As the fox said, there were a lot of people here, but not everyone was able to get to the elder. The only person who could pull this off left the Forest of Truth hundreds of years ago. The forest itself is a test. Fireflies, landing on a person, test his soul. They look for hidden, evil motives that prevent them from going further. A man wanders through the forest until he goes crazy, since one can only get out of this place by receiving a seal from the elder. The statue that Naruto saw is surrounded by a barrier that can only be opened by the strong spirit of shinobi, those who have not been broken by life. Some people, as the elder said, reached the statue, having overcome the firefly test, but could not destroy the barrier. Then they also went crazy from the desire to touch the statue. As Izumi said, foxes are very cunning and cunning creatures. They are vindictive, picky, and cruel, but they have a lot of positive qualities. They have a sharp mind, resourcefulness, ingenuity, and ambition. Seduction, the ability to adapt to changing circumstances, determination, and speed of learning everything new are the bright Shreks that accompany this creature throughout its life. They never give up and are very devoted to their home and family. Questions? Izumi asked. "Why Wanderer?" Naruto burst out. "You are a wanderer, a traveler through worlds and time." The fox just said. "Fireflies read your soul. But memories are part of the soul. Can I sign a contract?" The girl asked directly. "Is QB not enough for you?" The elder asked without anger and snorted. Naruto took this as a laugh. "Every person who reaches me becomes a part of this world," said the fox. "If you are ready to become a part of this, then the fox will be assigned to you, your life partner. A seal will appear on your hand, and by pouring chakra into it, you will be able to summon a fox to you. Of course, if necessary, you can summon me and other foxes, but using your usual summoning technique. What about training with you? As soon as you want, you can come to us for training. We don't wield weapons, but we are masters of senjutsu. We are fast, agile, and resourceful. We have our own fighting style that we can teach you." The elder nodded. "Do you agree, Uzumaki Naruto, bearer of the Kyubi no Yoko, wanderer, to become part of this world, accept the seal and sign a contract with us?" "Agree." The girl said seriously, nodding her head in confirmation. At the same moment, her right hand, near the wrist, was burned. A small summoning seal appeared there. Naruto was then given a contract, which was signed in blood. By the time all the procedures were completed, Shima approached her elder. "Naruto, you already know your new companion." Shima snorted in response to this remark. She walked up to Uzumaki and stood near her shoulder. Naruto raised her hand and stroked the fox's left side. "I wonder how long it's been since she's been here." "You've been here for 2 hours by our standards," Shima said. 10 minutes have passed in your world." Naruto nodded and stroked the fox's side again. The wool was very soft, easily sliding between the fingers, slightly tickling the skin. Shima affectionately poked her companion's hand with her muzzle when she was about to stroke her between the ears. "Thank you very much." The Jinchuriki smiled widely. "See you again, wanderer," Izumi said. "Time to go home. How is Sasuke?" Sasuke wandered through some thickets. This place was something with something. It seemed like a jungle, but also like a forest. The Uchiha couldn't tell for sure. There were green low trees, grasses, and bushes all around. A lot of greenery, seriously, huge leaves were constantly hitting Sasuke in the face. The air in this place was saturated with moisture, but this did not cause any inconvenience. Sasuke felt very good in the world of summoning, feeling a certain unity. The problem was insects. Sasuke had already been bitten several times by some small creatures that he couldn't even see. They were so tiny. Apart from these insects, not a single living soul met Sasuke on the way, and he was going to no one knows where. Who could even live in this place? Lizards? The Uchiha followed his inner feelings. It was as if he was being led along an invisible path. As soon as he found himself in this place, he immediately felt a certain signal, a beacon, a landmark, and went towards it. So, he made his way through the thickets, got hit in the face with leaves, suffered bites from small creatures, but moved on, although all this was starting to get pretty boring. Sasuke walked and walked and walked until he found himself in a huge, almost white wasteland. Behind the Uchiha was the jungle, and in front was an endless wasteland. The boy sighed heavily. And where has this difficult time taken him? Like Shikamaru, Sasuke looked up to the sky, hoping to see answers there. But this did not happen. On the contrary, even more questions arose. The sky in this place was a gentle lilac shade, the clouds slowly floated in one direction, covering something that looked like the sun. It was a white disk that sent light into this world. The sky that stretched above the earth, the endless white wasteland, all this was mesmerizing. Did you want to move forward, to find a place where the wasteland ends and something else begins? Taking a step forward, Sasuke stopped. The wind blew from somewhere from the side, clarifying the thoughts of the young shinobi. Was there anything different? What lay ahead of him? Will he find the end of the wasteland? Or will he get lost? Sasuke squatted down, touched the white earth, and realized that it was sand. The white sand that fell through his fingers, scattered in the wind, flew away, just like the Uchiha's desire to move on. He needed to get back to Naruto. He can't go any further. Sasuke stood up and immediately turned around to return to the thickets when a loud growl was heard and a sound wave passed through, which caused the young Uchiha to fall to the ground. However, he was not taken aback. Getting to his feet and taking out 2 kunai, the boy turned on his sharingans. He was examining the place where the menacing roar came from when he noticed movement to the right. Crouching down, Sasuke avoided a direct collision with the creature that jumped out of the bushes. The Uchiha got into position and prepared to fight. It was a leopard, a huge, taller than Sasuke's shoulders, a predatory beast that seemed to intend to make a snack out of the shinobi. Clicking its teeth, the beast ran towards Sasuke, developing incredible speed. In an instant, the beast was next to the Uchiha, which is why he had to jump over it. He landed behind the wildcat, throwing 2 kunai at it. He then made a series of seals, releasing a huge stream of fire from his mouth. But the leopard was not afraid of the fire. He roared again, creating a protective wall into which the equipment hit. The wildcat stood in front of the Uchiha, looking straight into his red eyes. A moment, and from under the leopard's paws sand flies towards Sasuke. The boy had to quickly close his eyes to avoid sad sandy consequences. He had to rely on intuition and other senses. Sasuke felt the cat running towards him, so he jumped up, turned over in the air and landed a few meters from his enemy. Then he opened his eyes. The leopard was no longer going to attack. He was looking intently at the Uchiha. The boy had the opportunity to examine the animal. The beauty of the leopard was undeniable. Its bright black fur with white and lilac spots created a truly mesmerizing sight. The leopard sparkled not only with its fur, but also with its eyes. They were a little brighter than the sky in this world. "Hi, Sasuke Uchiha." Suddenly the leopard's voice sounded. "I welcome you to our world." "Hi," said the shinobi, turning off his sharingans. He no longer felt danger. "Follow me." The Uchiha raised his eyebrows at such an order, but did not dare to argue. He raised his kunai and followed the cat into the bush. The couple made their way through the thick jungle of leaves for a very long time. Sasuke carefully watched his companion, noting his grace, strength, and power. He heard the leopard's breathing, followed its figure with his eyes, and watched the tail of the beast. The further they went into the thicket, the more clearly Sasuke heard the sound of falling water and the growls of other animals. In the end, the couple came to the waterfall. The huge stream of cascading water was surrounded by trees and leopards, both large and small. Sasuke and his companion walked to a waterfall, on the side of which there was an entrance to a cave. Walking through gloomy corridors, they entered a large room where a gigantic animal lay. The leopard that brought Sasuke bowed, nodded his head slightly, and walked towards the creature itself. Obviously, it was their leader, a huge leopard, whose fur with black spots was the color of sand on a wasteland, and whose eyes glowed a bright red. "Hi, Sasuke Uchiha," the head said in a menacing voice, turning his attention to him. "My name is Miho. I'm the leader of the pack." Having overcome himself, the Uchiha bowed. "Where I am?" he asked immediately. Miho snorted. As it turned out, Sasuke was in the Valley of Knowledge. Miho told him that the place he saw, a wasteland, was actually a test for incoming shinobi. Only those who are strong in spirit, have willpower, and have specific goals and objectives can resist the temptation to go further. A person whose judgment contains even a small amount of doubt and fear will never be able to cope with desire. As Miho said, there were many people who came into this world, but not all were worthy. There were only 3 people in their world who could resist this, including the Uchiha himself. The little bites that Sasuke felt in the thickets are a way to recognize a person and understand whether he is ready to pass the test. As Miho said, blood stores memories, just like the soul. With the help of blood, you can learn a lot, even the past and present. The leopard that attacked Sasuke is Miho's son, her right hand and future successor. His name is Ozimu. He is the strongest leopard in the pack after his mother. It is the battle with him that is another test for the shinobi. Ozimu assessed the skills of everyone who managed to overcome the desire, but only one, besides Sasuke, was able to reach the head of the pack and become a student of these places. What does it take to become a student? To sign a contract with you? Leopards are proud, stubborn animals. Their strength and power goes along with their pride. They are freedom-loving and hate orders and directions. Leopards are cold-blooded, vengeful, and ferocious. They can be unbalanced, which is sometimes reflected in their cruelty. They don't know the feeling of fear. Many of them are loners, even when in a pack. Leopards do not become attached, and if this happens, it is for life. Their heart is not big, it cannot accept everyone. Only by faith and truth can one earn a place in the soul and heart of a leopard. These animals are very faithful and devoted to their loved ones, they will always defend those who are truly dear and important to them. "You have to open up to us," Miho said. "We do not tolerate lies, and betrayal. We must be confident in you just as you must be confident in us." "What I should do?" the Uchiha asked seriously. "As I already said, blood is something that can tell everything about a person. Make a cut on your hand," Miho said, nodding to her son. As soon as the kunai cut the young shinobi's skin, Ozimu approached him. He ran his rough tongue over the wound, licking the blood. "That's how it is." The leopard snorted, approaching his mother. "You are a very interesting shinobi, Sasuke Uchiha, a traveler through space and time," Miho growled. "And your chosen one is no less interesting. You will have a great future, you can be sure of it, Sasuke. By signing a contract, you become part of our pack. You can come and go at any time, you become our student." Ozimu entered. "We will teach you everything you need to learn from us. But you should also know that your life is connected with one of the leopards. With someone who will be equal to you in strength, not physical, mental. This is a very important aspect of this contract." Miho nodded. "Your soul is black, gloomy, there is only room in it for a few people, am I right? It is these people who create an island of something bright in your soul. However, you are very strong. Your mental strength is incredible. Ozumiyu said. Sasuke frowned, trying to figure out what the leopard was getting at. By connecting yourself with a leopard, you intertwine your destinies. He becomes your comrade, your life partner. And his life will depend on yours. I moved on to the most important thing, Miho. The leopard will feel your serious physical injuries. It can also give you energy to recover. If I die, will he die too? And if he dies, will I die too? Sasuke asked. It only works in one direction. His life will depend on yours. Miho said. He will be your responsibility. My companion is my responsibility. The Uchiha said understandingly. Are you ready? Asked Ozumiyu. The Uchiha nodded, looking into the leopard's eyes. Will you be involved with me? The boy raised his eyebrows. The wildcat shook her face in agreement. Your strength is great, no one from our pack can accept it except me or Miho. The leopard roared. Your call will work on others, you will be able to call on my mother, but there will be a special connection with me. Naturally, you enter into a contract with us, which applies to everyone, but with me you will be connected by souls. This was the first time Sasuke had encountered this. His call was strange, but he understood why leopards were close to his spirit. He really understood and accepted this, so signing a contract was not a problem for him. When Sasuke was given the contract, he signed it with his blood and then looked at Ozma. He approached him, the huge leopard no longer looked as terrifying as at the first meeting. They looked into each other's eyes, the lilac color was mesmerizing. Sasuke felt a connection forming between them. A small thread connects the destinies of Ozumiyu and Sasuke. The boy then felt a burning sensation on his shoulder, but said nothing. He pulled back the collar of his t-shirt to look at his left shoulder. There was a pattern of black and lilac spots blooming there. They were similar to those that were on Ozumiyu's body. The pattern stretched a little down the arm so that it was not visible behind the t-shirt. He moved to the chest, but Sasuke was not sure where he had reached. It felt like the spots stopped in the area of the heart. This is a kind of seal, a designation of our connection. The leopard explained. To summon me, you need to direct chakra to her. I can visit you at any time, just as you can move into this world. I will move you if you call me. You can use regular seals to summon others. It's an honor to be part of your pack. Sasuke said politely, bowing slightly. We are honored to host such an unusual shinobi. Miho answered. And I would really like to meet your chosen one, Sasuke. The person who accepted you and was able to get into your soul must be very special. This is true. The Uchiha did not deny. Naruto was truly special. One day, I'm sure you'll meet her. I will wait impatiently. As well as your new visit to our world, said the head of the clan. How long has it been since I've been here? 1 hour here is equal to 5 minutes in your world. Ozumiyu answered. According to our time, you have been here for 3 hours, in your world, 15 minutes have passed. Sasuke chuckled. Has Naruto returned yet? Tell me honestly, your call is some kind of nasty and harmful beetle, just like you. Or a toad lizard? Maybe a bat? That was the first thing Sasuke heard when he found himself back at the training ground. Shika, have you decided to list all the nasty animals? The Uchiha sighed, examining Naruto, standing next to Kakashi and Obito, for severe damage or any changes. She smiled softly at him, nodding her head and mouthing that everything was fine. I was hoping that one of them would hit the mark. Shikamaru chuckled. He walked over to Sasuke, noticing a slightly bleeding cut on his arm and quickly healed it. Shika ran his eyes over the Uchiha, looking for any other cuts, burns, injuries, but he found nothing of the sort. Sasuke and Shikamaru approached everyone else, who were looking intently at the new arrival. Itachi folded his arms across his chest, obviously expecting at least a short story. Obito moved impatiently from foot to foot, even Kakashi stopped looking at the clouds, let alone the Sanins. Naruto just raised an eyebrow. "Tell me, Sasuke." His Uchiha mentor finally said. "Naruto doesn't tell us anything either." "How long have you been back?" Sasuke ignored his captain, focusing his attention on Naruto. 5 minutes ago." The girl shrugged. "At least tell me who you have." Jiraiya couldn't stand it. He had already calmed down, since his beloved and only goddaughter had returned alive and well, so now he was simply burning with curiosity. He rarely met people who were able to return so quickly from the draft world, moving into it without a seal. "Is everything that bad?" Shikamaru asked sarcastically, addressing both Sasuke and Naruto. "Spiders, cockroaches? Caterpillars? Snails? I think I've listed all the nasty creatures. I don't know who else you might have." Naruto and Sasuke simultaneously squinted and tilted their heads to the right, looking at the grinning genius. "Foxes," Uzumaki said briefly, and everyone looked at her in surprise. Everyone except Sasuke and Shikamaru, to whom this news did not seem like anything special at all. "I've never seen a fox call." Jiraiya raised his eyebrows. "And why am I not surprised?" Nara reasoned phlegmatically. "I have leopards," Sasuke reported, not intending to say anything more. He would then talk about everything with Naruto and Shika when they were completely alone. When the Uchiha named his summoning animal, Itachi raised his eyebrows in surprise. This was the highest manifestation of his emotions. He wanted to say something, but did not dare. Now the heir of the clan was completely convinced that he did not know his younger brother at all, that he had missed too much while trying to please his father. Sasuke was so unusual, smart, reasonable. He was strong, and his strength did not come to him through the efforts of the clan. The team is the one who changed and forced the young Uchiha to open up. Working as a team had a significant impact on his brother's behavior, his perception of the world and his attitude towards himself, Itachi decided. The younger brother was revealing a new side, previously unknown. And Fugaku's successor was indeed delighted with how his brother had changed. Itachi was very sorry that he had missed so much. "I heard about this call." Senju nodded. "But I've never seen it." When they got over the initial shock, everyone began asking the travelers about their adventures, but neither Naruto nor Sasuke said anything more. Uzumaki said that each person's call is something mysterious. No one should know about the world of summoning unless they want to enter into a contract with them. Eventually, they stopped pestering them. When Sasuke and Kakashi went to training, Obito and Itachi went to the clan, and Shikamaru went to his father. Naruto, Jiraiya and Tsunade were left alone. The Sannin looked at their goddaughter with a soft half-smile, who was sorting out her kunai with the most imperturbable look. They constantly looked at each other and whispered, hoping that Naruto didn't hear them. They wanted to ask something, but obviously didn't know how to start. "Where have you been these 6 years?" I decided to ask Uzumaki. "We traveled," Senju said. "We walked around the entire country of fire, visited other countries." She shrugged. "What happened while we were away?" "A lot has happened, Tsunade-bachan." Minato said that Kyuubi tried to break free. Jiraiya began without preamble. 6 years ago this happened. Since then, my life has never been the same. Will you tell me? Are you alright? Yoichi got hurt. When he tried to stop the fox, the poisonous chakra hit him. He has a scar on his face. Oto-san did not let the Kyuubi escape. But he constantly whispered different things to me. He told me to kill my family, did not let me sleep. I felt his presence constantly. Naruto said, despite the Sanins. Nisan thinks I'm a monster, and Oto-san is a weak girl who can't stand up to the fox. Do you think everything is fine with me? Naruto, Tsunade shook her head. I started training. It was a way to drown out the fox's voice, to cope with loneliness. I had no friends, I didn't communicate with anyone until I joined the team. Uzumaki continued. She knew that Tsunade and Jiraiya were different. They are not like her family, who were not at all interested in the identity of the young Jinchuriki. When my family practically erased me from their lives, Sasuke, Shikamaru, Kakashi, and Obito appeared. They showed me that even a Jinchuriki can receive care and respect. I don't care what Oto-san, Kaa-chan, or Nisan think. I respect Minato Namikaze as my Hokage, but not as my father. I don't want anything to do with a father who despises his daughter for her weakness. We're so sorry. If we were here, this wouldn't have happened, said Jiraiya. You are not to blame for what happened. It's nobody's fault. Naruto shrugged. That's how life turned out. All this helped me understand that I am not a monster, I am just a Jinchuriki. We understand. Tsunade nodded. No one will ever understand what a Jinchuriki feels. Only by becoming one can one understand the severity of this burden. But Kushina. Kaa-chan never showed her attitude towards me. I don't know what she thinks, but she never supported me, never helped me. She didn't do anything to help me. Naruto, I'm sorry. Tsunade sighed. We won't leave you again, okay? We love you. Uzumaki wiped away one small tear that nevertheless rolled down her cheek. It was important for her to hear these words from two people close to her. She knew that they would keep their promise and do everything to fulfill it. Jiraiya and Tsunade approached the girl and hugged her from both sides, giving support and understanding. Naruto snuggled into Jiraiya's shoulder as Tsunade kissed her temple. Everything will be fine. Scary. Sticky fear envelopes every cell of the body. Sasuke wakes up with a jerk, not quite aware of where he is. His eyes glow red, ready to repel any attack, but this is not necessary. Sasuke is at home, in his home, where nothing threatens him. At least for now. He often has nightmares, after which he cannot recover for a long time. Different thoughts tear Sasuke's head, not allowing him to forget the nightmare he just experienced. He's scared, he's in pain, he's lonely. This is exactly how he feels when he wakes up from a nightmare. Dreams are different, but they always make the Uchiha remember. In his sleep, he kills Itachi, piercing his heart with a blade, cutting him into pieces, torturing him in Genjutsu. His brother died in many ways, but always smiled. This made it even more painful because Itachi should blame him, should despise him, should hate him, but he didn't. Uchiha Itachi always loved his Otudo. That's why Sasuke hated himself. He will never forgive himself for what he has done in his entire life. There were dreams where he killed Naruto. These dreams were hardly worse than those dreams where he kills Itachi. He was also in pain, also scared, also disgusted with himself. Seeing your beloved die in your arms, feeling her blood running down your fingers, literally understanding the expression blood on your hands, this causes not only pain, but also fear. And Naruto always, in all her dreams, died by his hand, but she never closed her eyes. She always looked at him with her big blue eyes, and Sasuke couldn't help but stare back. He saw how life was fading away in her eyes, how consciousness was leaving, how her gaze was becoming cloudy. These dreams were so real. Sasuke woke up in a cold sweat, with red eyes and a rapidly beating heart. In his home world, after the war, he was often visited by nightmares, which at first he had to cope with alone. The Uchiha could not sleep for several days, loading himself with missions and training. Until one day Naruto noticed it. The girl did not give him a lecture, a long sermon, but simply said that nightmares torment not only him and that he does not have to cope on his own. Sasuke couldn't figure out what to do about this for a long time. And for a long time he could not decide to trust his best friend. One night, after another nightmare, the Uchiha left his house, walked to Naruto's house, and saw that she was also awake. The girl was then sitting in the kitchen and drinking tea, clasping the cup with both hands. The Uchiha walked into her house and sat across from her at the table as Naruto stood up and made him tea. She silently handed him the mug and also silently sat down. They didn't speak, but everyone felt supported and understood. Since then, they began to come to each other in difficult times. Sasuke never asked Naruto about her dreams, and the girl herself did not pry into his soul. They understood each other as no one else could understand them. When they started living together, everything became easier. Sasuke and Naruto helped each other overcome their nightmares. They felt the warmth of the person lying next to him, his breathing, the weight of his hand on his stomach, chest, back. They felt that nightmares were just nightmares, that the past could not be undone, that it was behind them. None of them could forgive themselves, but they helped each other move on. Sasuke dealt with nightmares in his home world. But he couldn't overcome them since he came to this world. He no longer felt Naruto's warmth next to him. He could not come to her at night to drink tea and believe that she was alive, that he had not killed her, that it was just a dream. He couldn't hug her, kiss her temple, and calm her down when she herself was having a nightmare. He couldn't do too much in this world, and it depresses him. He could not shake off the feeling of a palm blocking his breath, squeezing his heart and pulling out his soul at the same time. Sasuke felt like he was dying right here and now. Sasuke always felt a lot. He didn't show it, but he felt too much. He felt fear, hatred, regret, sadness, loneliness, loss. One day he felt incredible strength and power. He felt joy, cheerfulness, love. His heart was bursting with feelings, his soul was burning in the fire of emotions. Sasuke always drowned in his feelings silently. Therefore, it was always difficult for him to cope with nightmares. At first, in this place, nightmares were a constant companion of his life. Every night he killed people close to him again and returned from sleep with a new wound in his heart and a growing dark hole in his soul. He literally slept among the living dead. Every day he faced the ghosts of the past, which drove him into despondency and melancholy. He felt the bitterness of loss, which he had never really fully felt. All feelings were drowned out by the desire for revenge, power, and subsequently bitterness went deep into Sasuke's consciousness, occasionally reminding itself of itself with a strange pain in the chest area. But when the Uchiha found himself back in the clan, among living people whom he had buried long ago, bitterness burst out. It was hard for him to see his father, mother, and most importantly, Itachi. Itachi, whose heart beat, whose blood continued to circulate, whose breathing was even and calm. Native, but so far from him, Itachi. The living dead were everywhere, even in their own home. Months have passed since his arrival in this world. The nightmares began to come less and less often, once a week. He learned to live in the clan again and adapted to family life. He began to rebuild his life piece by piece, in small steps. Sasuke sees that same face from his nightmares less and less often in Itachi's place, and less often does he have visions of a bloody massacre in the clan. But coping with nightmares is still difficult. These nightmares are disorienting, revealing all the darkest things from the past of the young Uchiha. Sasuke still feels fear, disgust, and loneliness. And he knows that there is another person in Konoha who experiences nightmares and feels the same way as him. This means that he is not alone in his feelings. In his thoughts. He is not alone in this world. He is not alone because Naruto is by his side. Sasuke feels it on a mental, spiritual level. He knows he can overcome the nightmares. A month of training passed intensely and very quickly. Uzumaki trained with her godparents from morning to evening, 7 days a week. She got up early in the morning, when Minato, Kushina, and Yoichi were still sleeping, went for a run, and returned for breakfast. The family saw her only at breakfast, because she returned home only when everyone had already gone to bed. Naruto was exhausting herself with training. She trained endurance, strength, and speed. I practiced taijutsu, ninjutsu, and fuinjutsu. Jiraiya wanted to teach her the Rasengan, but was stopped by the same Uzumaki, who created a blue sphere on her hand with the help of a clone. Naruto didn't even have to lie when his godfather asked about the technique. Yoichi actually showed and explained everything about her to her when the girl was about 6 years old, a few days before the fox tried to break out. The older brother then promised that he would train Naruto when she graduated from the academy, but things did not go according to his plan. Uzumaki mastered the Rasengan on her own. Jiraiya could only admire the stubbornness of his beloved goddaughter. Tsunade was proud of the little girl who had suffered too much grief in her life. The godparents could not be happier with their student. They loved her and intended to take her away from the village as soon as the Chunin exam was over. That's what they told Naruto about it. "I won't leave without my team, Tsunade-bachan, Ji-san." Then Uzumaki said firmly, throwing kunai. "I know you want to protect me, but my team is everything to me. I won't be able to leave them here for who knows how many years. You understand that Sasuke and Shikamaru are the heirs of powerful clans. They are under special control of the heads of their clans." Jiraiya said in response. "I understand. But I'm not just a random shinobi, Ji-san. Not only am I the daughter of the Hokage, but I'm also a Jinchuriki, so everything is very difficult." Naruto nodded. "I would really like to leave with you, but I won't leave my team here." Kurama could only marvel. His Jinchuriki was essentially telling the truth, but she skillfully manipulated the feelings of her godparents, who sincerely wanted to protect the young lady from the influence of her family. After that conversation, Jiraiya and Tsunade were ready to tear off the heads of every Namikaze in this village with their own hands. They were ready to raze Konoha itself to the ground, because their beloved goddaughter had suffered so much in this place. And now they set out to take the girl with them. Oh, Kurama was almost sure that they would realize their plan. Speaking of the team, Naruto rarely saw Shikamaru and Sasuke. The training was so exhausting for everyone in the 10th team that they didn't even have the strength to talk. Nara constantly disappeared in the clan and in training with Obito, who not only physically, but also mentally exhausted the young genius. The Uchiha, having mastered Chidori very quickly, by Kakashi's standards, left for his clan. Itachi and the same Obito, who gave the reins of power in training with Shikamaru Hatake, became closely involved with the youngest son Fugaku. Naruto honestly doesn't know what his clanmates are doing to Sasuke. She's sure that this duo was also joined by Shisui, who is temporarily on vacation while his team recovers, but her lover was ready to tear and throw lightning, literally, when they last saw each other, only he didn't have the strength. However, Naruto knew it wasn't just about training. Sasuke was tired and exhausted, not only physically, but also mentally. She understood that her lover was suffering from nightmares that did not want to leave him, just like her. She never asked Sasuke what he was dreaming about. She guessed from the way that in his home world, the Uchiha always whispered Itachi or her name in his sleep, and then woke up in a cold sweat. Naruto understood that she couldn't help, just as he couldn't help her, so they were simply close to each other in such moments. She knows that Sasuke has a hard time dealing with nightmares because she can't handle them without him. When she had terrible dreams after the war, the Uchiha would pull her towards him and almost weightlessly kiss her temple, top or forehead. Naruto hugged him across his chest, snuggled closer to forget. "It was hard without his warmth by my side." Enough for today. Tsunade interrupted her thoughts. Naruto finished her fire technique by making several seals. Jiraiya nodded his head in approval. "Tomorrow is the last stage. You need to rest, Naruto. We will see you only after the exam, so don't forget what we taught you." And they really taught her a lot. During this month, Naruto corrected her taijutsu, mastered several new fire techniques, which Tsunade taught her, and wind, which Jiraiya helped her understand. Naruto also increased her stamina and mastered several more Fuinduzu seals, useful seals, by the way. 3 times she sparred with Lady Tsunade, who did not want to spare the poor and unfortunate girl at all, so she fought almost at full strength. Naruto, of course, lost, but she received valuable advice from the Slug Queen. Twice there was a fight with the Godfather, who also did not spare the young Jinchuriki. Losing was guaranteed, but the corrected taijutsu became her encouragement. "Take care of yourself. Don't let the dog harm you." Tsunade spoke. "Watch out for Kyubi. It is unknown how the tailed animals will behave in such a tense environment." Certainly. I will do my best to make sure nothing bad happens, the girl said seriously. In response, she received a kiss on the top of her head from Tsunade and a pat on the shoulder from Jiraiya. Clever girl. The woman smiled. We are proud of you, said the toad hermit. Having said goodbye to their goddaughter once again, the Sanins left, and Naruto wandered to the training ground with Sasuke. After training with her godparents, Naruto always went to that training ground to think, reflect, or train some more. She could calmly read scrolls there, master more and more seals, or meditate. Sometimes she went down to the fox to talk or seek advice. A couple of times Naruto met Sasuke here, who was obviously taking a break from the control of his mentors. Today she also met Sasuke at the training ground. I thought that you would be tormented very much today, before tomorrow's battle, Naruto said rather cheerfully. Shursui said that I needed rest, so I left the clan, the Uchiha simply said. Reasonable. Naruto sat down next to him under a tree and took out a scroll that she found on her bed yesterday. During these months that they have been in this world, she has not been able to figure out the secret admirer, so to speak. Scrolls appeared rarely. During this time, there were only 2 of them, but each of them was very useful. In one she found Fuenduza's seals, which she enthusiastically began to study, and in yesterday's one she found wind techniques. They were quite complex and would take a decent amount of time to master, so Naruto didn't even take up the task. But no one is stopping her from reading, right? You still haven't found out who brings them? Sasuke asked quietly. No, the Uchiha just chuckled, closing his eyes. Naruto looked at her lover out of the corner of her eye. Bags under the eyes, a haggard and even paler face, this was clearly not very good. Naruto sighed heavily and took her Uchiha's hand. He instantly intertwined their fingers and dropped his head onto his shoulder. I'm so tired, Sasuke's quiet voice sounded. I know. Naruto ran her hand over his forehead, removing a stray strand of hair. Gradually, Sasuke's breathing became even and serene. He fell asleep. The Uzumaki gently stroked her lover's hand with her thumb, giving the man a chance to rest. The Uchiha was breathing slowly, his heart was beating evenly. Sasuke had obviously fallen into a calm and nightmare-free sleep. The Uchiha needed rest, and Naruto just needed to feel him next to him. The tension could literally be cut with a knife. When Naruto entered the room where Sasuke, Temari, Kankuro, and Gaara were already present, she literally froze for a couple of moments. Because there was this strange aura in the air. At least from Gaara's sister and brother's side. They looked with some contempt at Sasuke, who was simply irritated by such close attention to his person. Jinchuriki Shikaku watched all this with complete indifference. He nodded discreetly to Naruto as she walked in and continued to stare at the trio again. Waves of indignation and irritation from everything that was happening emanated from Sasuke. He had absolutely no idea what he had done to deserve the attention of these 2 people. And if from Kankuro's side it was possible to understand this, because they still had to fight together, then Temari's gaze remained a mystery to him. The Uchiha's mood was worse than ever on such a significant day. In the morning everything was relatively good until he went downstairs to the kitchen, where Fugaku was already waiting for him. Sasuke greeted politely, and then sat down at the table to have breakfast in peace. However, this was not the case. Fugaku decided to resist the wishes of his youngest son and blow his mind with completely unnecessary lectures. He expressed his outrage at Sasuke passing the final stage of the exam for the umpteenth time this month. At first, the younger Uchiha sincerely did not understand his father's discontent. What else does he need from him? Sasuke proved himself, went through 3 stages of the exam, trained, and trained some more. He didn't even snap at his father. He stopped being rude to Itachi, because after training he had absolutely no strength left for anything. I didn't even want to talk. So Sasuke wondered what else Fugaku wanted from him. It's not that this upset or angered Sasuke, the family's attitude no longer evoked such feelings, but he was wondering what his father had once again decided to present to his son. He eventually found out that Fugaku had never thought that his youngest son was capable of passing the exam, so now he was afraid that he would disgrace the clan by losing to the unknown sandstone. Sasuke decided not to mention that Kankuro is a very strong shinobi and that his father should not underestimate him. He also did not say that Fugaku, in principle, did not notice his son in order to somehow assess his abilities. The only thing he wanted from Sasuke was to marry Hyuga. By the way, Sasuke never found out who this unfortunate candidate for his wife was. After thinking a little, the Uchiha decided that with a high probability it would be someone close to Hyuga Hayashi, but who remained a mystery. Thus, Fugaku spent a month picking Sasuke's brains with a spoon called Worthless Son. The Uchiha behaved honestly and righteously. He had absolutely no time to think about his words or even pay attention to his actions. In the morning, Fugaku again began talking about his son's abilities, although Itachi had recently reported on Sasuke's successes, using his eldest as an example, and then added about the shame and possible belittlement of the clan's abilities if the Uchiha loses. He did not forget to mention simply marriage, which was already in the shinobi's throat. Fugaku eventually switched to Team 10, saying that they were pretty weak shinobi. What his father wanted to achieve, Sasuke never understood, either to bring his son to a nervous tic, or to humiliate him even more, or simply by the way. However, these words of his convinced the younger Uchiha that Fugaku sees nothing beyond his clan and only thinks about how to elevate it. Sasuke left for the exam in a disgusting mood, and here Kankuro and Temari look at him as the main enemy of all humanity. All this did not play the best role for the mental balance and complete calm of the young Uchiha. Naruto sighed heavily and walked up to her lover, placing her hand on his shoulder. Sasuke glanced at her briefly, finally breaking away from contemplating the dog. "It's very interesting here." A familiar voice sounded from the door. Naruto turned her head towards Shikamaru and smiled at him, removing her hand from her comrade's shoulder. For Uzumaki herself, the morning turned out to be nothing. She woke up, did all the procedures, and went down for breakfast, where Kushina, Minato, and Yoichi were sitting. Her family paid little attention to her as usual, so Naruto calmly ate her food and stood up from her seat. She thanked Kaa-chan and politely bowed to everyone else in the family, intending to leave this house for the exam. However, her wish was not destined to come true, as her Oto-san told her not to disgrace herself. Minato looked firmly at his daughter as he told her about control and her weakness. Naruto was furious at every word the Hokage said, but did not answer anything. She listened to his entire lecture in silence, and then said, "Don't worry, Hokage-sama, with your prayers I keep everything under control." Naruto. She heard Minato's voice before slamming the door of the house and going to the exam in a very bad mood. When Shikamaru saw his team, he approached them with a smile. As the Jinchuriki noted, he had not changed at all during the time that they had not seen each other. He still lazily drawled his words, he still looked tortured by life and indifferent to all living things. She met him at most 3 times this month, but even then they practically didn't talk, because they were tired. Therefore, now seeing my friend in a fairly high spirit was like a balm for the soul. At least someone had it good. Everything just shines like a rainbow. Naruto responded to his remark. Shikamaru approached his teammates. He patted Sasuke on the shoulder and, putting his arm around Uzumaki's shoulders, kissed her temple. In response, Uzumaki grinned slyly, almost like a fox, and pulled the boy by the tail on his head. "I missed you too, Naruto." Nara rolled his eyes. And by Sasuke's eternally gloomy face, of course, too. "I won't say that I'm glad to see you, dear comrade." The Uchiha sighed. "And it's always like this." "I do it with all my heart, and you," Shika said sadly. "Don't appreciate it, don't love it." "Well, since you understood everything yourself." Uzumaki shrugged. Shikamaru grinned, but did not have time to answer anything, as the examiner entered the room. He spoke in detail about how the final stage would take place, told about the rules and the order of battles. Since there are only 6 participants, after the first 3 battles reveal their winners, 3 shinobi will fight at once each for himself. The winner of the exam will be the one who defeats the other 2. He also determined the order of the first fights. Shikamaru and Temari will start, then there will be Sasuke and Kankuro, and for dessert they left the fight of 2 Jinchuriki. "Are you ready to start?" asked the examiner. "For the first time in my memory, the opponents have 2 full-fledged teams. Everything happens for the first time," Shikamaru noted phlegmatically. "Shikamaru and Temari, head out. Your fight is first," said the shinobi, entering the arena. Problematic. The fight between Temari and Shikamaru turned out to be interesting. As soon as the examiner announced the start, Temari opened her fan. However, the guy was in no hurry to make his move. He phlegmatically examined the clouds, while the stands and Temari froze in anticipation. They stood like that for about 5 minutes until someone shouted from the stands. Shikamaru looked up from his contemplation of the sky and, having made several seals, launched a fireball at the girl. As far as he knew, it was the element of fire that was strong against wind. Temari had to escape from the attack. When the fireball stopped working, she launched the cutting wind technique, literally causing cuts to the entire surrounding area. Shikamaru, sighing heavily, disappeared behind a tree in the arena, trying to think through a plan of action. While the elements of the dog were raging, no one could really see what was happening in the arena. Nara looked up at the sky again. The sun was not in a favorable position for him. The shadows would not be long enough to reach the kunoichi, so he would have to act differently. He made a series of seals and pressed his hand to the ground, making a small hole near the tree. His actions went unnoticed by almost everyone except those with enhanced eyes, who watched it all from the stands. Eventually, Temari's technique stopped, and Nara continued to sit behind the tree. He sighed heavily and closed his eyes for a second. Shikamaru heard footsteps approaching and, folding his hands for the required technique, jumped out from behind the tree. The shadow from the plant spread towards the grinning Temari, causing her to jump back. At one moment the shadow stopped, and the dog grinned. Shikamaru released the technique. The girl fluffed her fan again and launched a blade of wind at the shinobi. The technique flew towards Shikamaru with a whistle, which is why he had to set up an earthen wall and move to the side. The blade destroyed the wall and crashed into the side of the arena, creating a crack in it. The guy rolled to the left, closer to the tree. He rose to his feet and threw a kunai at Temari, forcing her to cover herself with her fan. From the impact on him, the weapon scattered in different directions. Fighting off the kunai, the dog did not notice how the enemy was approaching her. Shikamaru in a few steps found himself close to the kunoichi, on her right side, intending to use the binding technique. A small shadow moved towards Temari, but she failed to accomplish her plan. The girl noticed the technique at the last moment, so she jumped away. Towards the tree. Now Shikamaru was in the open space of the arena, therefore the cutting wind would be effective. Temari launched her favorite technique again, forcing Shika to kneel and cover her eyes with her hand. Taking advantage of the fact that the girl could not see much, Nara folded the seals and made a hole in the ground. The wind cut my face and hands, but so far everything was tolerable, although not very pleasant. When the technique wore off, Shikamaru rose to his feet. His face was covered in cuts, his hands were bleeding a little from minor scratches, but he grinned. Having made the seals for the technique, he stood in the desired position for the attack. Temari prepared to leave. Second, 2, 3. Nothing happens. She does not see the shadow of the young shinobi. Then she grinned. Running out of chakra? But it was not there. Intending to move her hand, Temari was unable to do so. It was as if she was nailed to the spot. A shadow peeked out from a hole in the ground, connecting with Temari's shadow, preventing her from moving. Suddenly a shadow crawled over the girl's body. It slowly moved towards the dog's neck, taking on the shape of a hand. Temari felt the hand begin to tighten on her neck, gradually cutting off her oxygen. "You lured me into a trap," Temari said quietly, having obviously underestimated her opponent before. "Give up, Temari. I can hold this technique for a long time, I have a lot of chakra. The guy chuckled, gradually approaching the girl. With every step he took, the shadow on his neck grew stronger. I can knock you out. You're too proud to give up. Think about how you can express yourself by correctly analyzing the situation. How would your pride suffer if I just knocked you out? What will your mentor think? Your brothers? Your Kazakage, who is watching all this? Temari closed her eyes, feeling the oxygen in her lungs running out. I give up. The girl said loudly. Well, how loud? As loud as she could in the current situation. However, the examiner heard her. As soon as the words of Shikamaru's victory were heard, he released the technique and fell to his knees. Sweat began to run down his face and his hands shook a little. You, Temari began. Shikamaru slowly rose to his feet, sighing heavily. My breathing was a little out of whack. My chakra would have lasted another 20 seconds. I spent almost all of it on this technique. Nara grinned. You fooled me. Temari said in surprise, sincerely admiring this man in her heart. You were inattentive to me until this moment. And I just took advantage of it. If you had paid more attention, you would have realized that I don't have much chakra and I spent most of it on other techniques. Shika spoke. And I played on your feelings, to make you give in. I studied you during the entire exam. And I understood what is important to you. You are not only a strategist, Shikamaru, but also a manipulator. Temari said with a smile. Although she was upset by the loss, warm feelings towards this boy settled in her soul. Temari sincerely admired his intelligence and was filled with respect. I really underestimated you. My mistake. I should have paid more attention. Shikamaru walked out of the arena as Temari watched him leave. The girl grinned and, putting her fan behind her back, went in the opposite direction to take seats in the stands and watch the brothers fight. Shika, are you okay? Naruto asked when the boy entered the room. Nara sat down on the chair that stood in this place and sighed heavily. The wounds on my body itched, I just wanted to lie down somewhere and sleep for a few days. You don't even have to answer. And so everything is visible. Can you heal yourself? Should I call the doctors? No, there is too little chakra to actually do anything. No doctors needed. I'm exhausted, but nothing serious. The guy shook his head. The examiner called Sasuke and Kankuro into the arena. The Uchiha nodded towards his teammates and was the first to follow the examiner. The dog moved after him. Everyone prepared to watch the fight between Sasuke and Kankuro, which promised to be exciting. When the examiner announced the start, the opponents continued to stand and look at each other. Sasuke turned on his Sharingan and made a series of seals, firing a series of fire bullets from his mouth. Kankuro had to move out of the line of fire. When the Uchiha's attack ended, the sandstone made a pass with his hand, and blue chakra appeared on it. A puppet came out from the guy's back and immediately rushed towards the red-eyed man. Thanks to his Sharingan, Sasuke managed to escape from the puppet's attacks while Kankuro was preparing for another move. Moving his fingers, he made the doll release wooden rods that completely wrapped around the young Uchiha's body, preventing him from even moving. Kankuro grinned at the easy victory as he began to squeeze the shinobi's body with puppet rods. But his hopes for a quick victory were not justified. A second later, the body in the hands of the puppet dissolved into white mist, and the Uchiha himself appeared on the side of Kankuro. They met in pure taijutsu. Here Sasuke had an advantage, because the dog is a clear-ranged fighter and puppet master. Moreover, the Uchiha possessed the Sharingan. Kankuro fought confidently. He hit the pressure points and made sharp lunges. The battle was fought at a decent speed, so ordinary spectators could see little in this whirlwind of attacks. Suddenly, the sound of kunai hitting was heard. Small sparks flew out as the two objects collided. A few hits and both kunai fly to the sides. The shinobi fought again in pure taijutsu. In the end, the Konoha man hit Kankuro in the stomach so that he flew into the wall, crashed into it and left a huge crack on it, which diverged in addition to other, smaller cracks. Sasuke intended to finish everything with one blow, but his plan was not destined to come true. He noticed a movement to the right, and he had to get away from the attack of the puppet. The doll flew at the young shinobi at great speed, because of which Sasuke did not have time to make the seals, so he simply jumped up and landed behind the doll. Kankuro came to his senses and confidently controlled his puppet. Sasuke jumped away and, gathering chakra in his palm, created Chidori. Sasuke made his move. He ran straight towards Kankuro's puppet, intending to hit it with a Chidori punch. The dog had to act. He removed the doll from the Uchiha's line of attack. The puppet instantly found itself near Kankuro, who removed it from the arena. Suddenly the world swam before the dog's eyes. Everything spun and spun, his hands shook, and he fell to his knees, closing his eyes. When he felt better, he removed his hands from his face and allowed himself to open his clear, or not quite, eyes. The first thing he saw were Sasuke's red eyes and the 3 commas that swirled around them. The audience froze tensely, because few understood why Kankuro suddenly fell to his knees, having removed his puppet before doing so. What was it? Did you make me believe that you would destroy my creation? Kankuro asked quietly. Genjutsu. Sasuke grinned. Now in reality, he created a Chidori, which glowed with bright flashes in his hand. Birdsong echoed throughout the arena, causing people to hold their breath. Fugaku could not contain his surprise when he saw this technique performed by his youngest son. He raised his eyebrows in surprise, and Itachi, standing behind him, chuckled in satisfaction. The entire arena was in anticipation of the further battle, and opinions were clearly divided. Some confidently said that Sasuke Uchiha was not capable of defeating the Sandman, while others, on the contrary, stubbornly believed that Kankuro had no chance against Fugaku's son. As arguments raged in the stands, Sasuke ran towards Kankuro, creating streaks of Chidori on the ground. A second and a hand with a technique crashes into Kankuro's body, punching a huge hole in his heart. The dog fell to his knees, a thin stream of blood flowing from his mouth. Before he passed out, he saw his sister's face. Temari was crying. She cried bitterly because she had lost her brother. The world swam before my eyes again. When his vision cleared, Kankuro saw a blue sky with clouds and the examiner's face in front of him. The dog rose to his feet and looked around the arena. Near the place where he lay, there was a decent-sized hole in the ground, scorched around the edges. Where was the truth and where was the illusion? Sasuke stood a few meters away from him with a completely indifferent face. "Dog no Kankuro, you lost consciousness," said the examiner. "According to the rules of the exam, I admit your defeat." Uchiha Sasuke won. Kankuro didn't know what to say. He screwed up big time when he looked into the Uchiha's eyes. It was truly a fatal mistake. He looked with surprise and approval at his opponent, from whom he did not expect such a setup. On the other hand, the fight was interesting and educational. He gained respect for Sasuke, who was now smirking next to the examiner. "Uchiha," Kankuro said quietly. "You are a worthy opponent." "You are no less worthy, Kankuro." Sasuke nodded in response. "And your style is interesting. The fight with you did not leave me indifferent. It was interesting. Your eyes are amazing. I've never encountered an Uchiha before. You'll meet again." Sasuke grinned as he left the arena. Kankuro looked after him and went to the stands, intending to find his sister and watch Gar fight. "You know, the last time you and I fought on opposite sides, it all ended very strangely," Naruto said thoughtfully, walking next to Gaara into the arena. She spoke quietly so that the examiner would not hear her. Although it seemed that, in principle, everything was purple for him. He just wanted to go home. "After that fight, my life changed," the former Kazekage simply said. "Be careful. Don't let me do anything bad. You are confident in the Kyuubi, but Shikaku is too unpredictable. If he starts to break out, I'll lose control. I won't be able to hold him back for long." Don't let me do something terrible. Naruto didn't have time to answer. They entered the arena and stood opposite each other. The examiner announced the start of the last doubles fight. Gaara's sand flew up, gathering into several lines. 3 fast streams rushed towards Naruto. Uzumaki quickly assessed the situation and remembered that her friend was excellent at controlling sand, so she had no other choice. She formed a series of seals and created a barrier around herself. The sand, crashing into him, gave away the chakra invested in this technique. Sand called the dog away, realizing that he couldn't get his friend that way. Naruto also removed the technique, simultaneously scanning Gaara's condition. She must not miss a single flash in the source of her friend's chakra, so that if the raccoon tries to break out, she can stop him. Or at least buy time for stronger shinobi so they can deal with the tailed one. Using a series of seals, Naruto created a strong current of wind that swirled around the arena, throwing up a huge column of dust into the air. Taking advantage of the low visibility, she placed several seals on the ground and created a couple of clones. When the wind died down, Naruto and the clones ran towards Gaara. One of them created a stream of fire, which was stopped by a sand wall. The clone and the original grinned at the same time, coming in from 2 different directions. The clone ran around the enemy and began to approach from behind, but sand got in his way. Naruto, of course, knew this would happen, so she didn't even try to attack. Taking advantage of Gaara's distraction, she placed a seal near the place where he was standing. When the sand destroyed the clones, it targeted the young Jinchuriki, so Naruto had to flee in a hurry. She ran to the place where she placed the first 2 seals. Grunting, she folded her hands in the required sequence and placed them exactly on the seals. Bright black symbols began to emanate from under his hands. They connected into one thick line that ran towards the last seal, near Gaara. When the 3 seals connected, the lines moved to the guy's legs, and his sand stopped and flew towards the owner. If Gaara had eyebrows, they would definitely shoot up. He was so surprised. He didn't know what kind of fuinjutsu Naruto had used, so his first thought was to change the direction of his chakra. Which, of course, he did. Naruto's technique, which was created to drain chakra, dissipated, the seals were destroyed and the black lines disappeared. Naruto scanned Gaara's chakra. There were no changes. "What do you say, Kurama?" asked Uzumaki. "He is okay. Bye." In any case, Shikaku, although crazy, is not stupid. He will take advantage of the moment when the Jinchuriki is weak. The fox said thoughtfully. Naruto sighed heavily. And this may not be a moment of physical weakness. Not that it makes me feel any better. She mentally snorted, but in reality she made several seals to launch the technique. A huge fireball flew towards Shikaku's Jinchuriki, obscuring his view. The people in the stands sighed in unison when a ball of sand appeared in Gaara's place. The fire crashed into him, enveloping him completely. It must have been a little hot inside. Uzumaki stopped the technique. Having created a clone, she began to concentrate chakra in her palm, intending to break through her friend's defense with one technique. When the blue ball appeared in the Jinchuriki's hand, Minato raised his eyebrows in surprise. His eyes became the size of his entire face, because his daughter, weak and incapable of anything, now held the Rasengan in her hand. The Kazekage, sitting next to Namikaze, leaned forward interestedly to get a better look at the battle. In the end, his youngest son's protection was perfect. Can anything break through it? Naruto, meanwhile, ran towards Gaara's ball. She was not sure that the Rasengan would break through the defense, because, to be honest, they had never tried to do this, but trying was not torture. She remembered how Chidori was able to break through a perfect defense, so she had high hopes for the Rasengan. And I was not mistaken, the blue ball crashed into the sand, creating a whole network of cracks on it. Still, it struck. But her joy was short-lived. Suddenly she felt a flash of chakra, evil and demonic. Naruto, this is Shikaku. The boy was right. The fox growled. Gaara's ball disintegrated. She saw her friend sitting on one knee and looking at the ground. "He's trying to escape," the guy said quietly. The next moment, the former Kazekage looked up at Naruto. Only it was no longer Gaara. The one-tail's eyes looked at Naruto. "What should I do now, Databeo?" The kunoichi asked a completely logical question. And she really wanted to get an answer to it. "We need to get him out of here. If Shikaku breaks free, it will not seem like much. The one-tailed one will destroy everything here no worse than I once did." Kurama growled in Naruto's head. The girl wondered what she should do with all this as Gaara slowly fell into madness. Sandy eyes glared at Naruto as the boy growled. He literally roared, no worse than the Nine-Tails himself. Naruto sighed heavily and made seals. Putting a barrier around him, it was weak, but at least it was something. For the first time. Something is happening. Minato frowned. The Kazekage stood up from his seat and began to closely monitor his son. Naruto continued to hold the barrier while her friend fought his inner demon. She frantically thought about how to get the Jinchuriki out of the arena so that none of the spectators would get hurt. "It's me, Naruto. I won't last long," Gaara whispered when the examiner began to approach the participants. "I need to get out of here." "Attack me," Naruto said sharply. "And then run after me. I hope we have enough time to run away from people." There was a sharp and strong release of chakra, which destroyed the Uzumaki barrier. The shockwave was so strong that Naruto turned over in the air and flew several meters away. The girl crashed into the wall and moaned quietly. The landing was clearly not soft. She quickly rose to her feet and created 20 shadow clones, which began to approach Dog No from all sides. The guy destroyed them all with sand, and then sharply directed it towards Naruto. Small grains of sand began to form something similar to a tornado, which rushed after the girl at full speed. She chuckled and began to run away from him throughout the arena when the tornado broke up and a huge pile of small grains of sand flew from all sides towards Naruto, surrounding her. Uzumaki had no choice but to climb the arena wall, run up the stairs near the stands and, jumping onto the roof, disappear from the eyes of all spectators. Gaara, she felt, was heading straight after her. When the two genin were out of sight, everyone began whispering and looking at each other. Minato went down to the arena to talk to the examiner. He couldn't say anything sensible, so Namikaze called in the jounin. "We need to find them. These are two Jinchuriki, and if one of them gets out of control, they need to be stopped urgently," Minato said menacingly. The jounin, which were Kakashi, Obito, Itachi, Yoichi, Asuma, and several others, nodded. Everyone ran away abruptly. Minato walked up to the Kazekage, who was also giving orders to his men. The two Kage looked at each other tensely and simultaneously descended into the arena to go in search of the Jinchuriki. Sasuke and Shikamaru were not left out. They scolded their friend with all known words, intending, if not to beat her, then to finish her off when they met. And Gaara too. The Uchiha guessed that Naruto must have taken his friend, who was clearly enraged, away from Konoha, but where was the question? Nara, who was still exhausted and rather pale, was lagging behind the Uchiha, so he stopped him. "You don't want me to leave Naruto, do you? And you? We have to find her," Shikamaru said, obviously acting on emotions. "I want to say that it's safer for you not to go anywhere. Naruto will personally kill me if he finds out that he allowed you to go somewhere in this state." Sasuke chuckled. "Think by yourself. My conscience won't allow me. Common sense should help. It is unknown what is happening there. These are two Jinchuriki, you have to understand. If one of them went crazy, it would be dangerous there. You're already weak." Sasuke must have never made such long speeches. "If something happens to you, Naruto will never forgive himself for it, you know that yourself. She won't care whether she's guilty or not. She will say that she did not save. She values us. I love you too. I can't let you fight alone. We are a team. Sasuke sharply pressed Shikamaru to him, resting his forehead against his forehead. He put his hand on the back of his head and closed his eyes. Sasuke couldn't let Shikamaru go anywhere. "If anyone asks, I will deny everything, but please stay safe." Sasuke spoke quietly. Nara closed his eyes, trying to organize his thoughts and feelings. The heart and brain waged a tense struggle, and no one wanted to give up primacy. "I know I don't show it often, but both you and Naruto are dear to me. And I will do everything to protect you. I can knock you out, Shika, but I hope you turn on your brain eventually. You wouldn't stay away." "I'm not staying. I'll find Naruto. We'll be fine. But none of us will be okay if you get hurt." Sasuke pulled away from his friend. "You know I'm right. Promise you'll be okay. I don't want to look for another team. We'll be fine." Sasuke didn't look like himself at that moment. His words to Shikamaru were true, but he had never expressed his affection or shown his feelings so openly. It must have been the first and last time, but the Uchiha had to convince Shikamaru to stay. If something goes wrong, and something clearly already has gone wrong, he can't lose it. He had lost too many people to just sacrifice people like that. This was truly an indication that Sasuke Uchiha had changed. The relationship with Naruto, moving to another world, a new team, a living brother, and friendship with Shikamaru really made him rethink some things. In general, he understood a lot, but the most important thing is that people need people. There were truly few people in Sasuke's life that were dear to his heart. He lost almost everyone. And each loss left a huge scar in his soul. One day he literally felt his soul crying, torn to shreds by circumstances. The Uchiha didn't want to feel it anymore, because the pain was Shrek's-like intense. Then, many years ago, he stood on a tree branch and looked at Konoha. This was a few years after he became a Nukenin and went to Orochimaru. Late at night, he watched the village swell, small lights, and listened to the barely audible voices of people. It was at that moment that he felt a growing wound in his heart and a sharp pain that came from his crying soul. It was at that moment that he realized that there was no one left in his life who was dear to his heart. The parents died at the hands of their eldest son. His own and beloved brother massacred the entire clan, leaving Sasuke with fierce hatred and a thirst for revenge. The team that had really grown close to him had obviously given up on him. Naruto, the only person who firmly settled in Sasuke's heart, also left him, as he thought, forever. At that moment, even hatred for his brother subsided, giving its place to the unbearable pain that emanated from the soul dying in convulsions. "The darkness in my heart grew even greater, fueled by the weight of loneliness." The Uchiha was crying at that moment. He actually cried, holding his chest with his hand. He felt like something was squeezing him, cutting off his oxygen. His chest was torn, his heart was beating very fast, and bitter tears were streaming down his face. They dripped, leaving wet marks on the shirt. Sasuke felt their salty taste and realized how bad he felt. Uchihas always felt too much. They burned in their feelings, surrendering to them completely, without a trace. That is why the Uchihas were afraid to let people into their lives, afraid to love, afraid to get attached. Their feelings could destroy them. This moment became another turning point in Sasuke's life. Then he finally closed his heart, which completely surrendered to the power of darkness. Only hatred and the desire for revenge remained there. However, he did not drive Naruto out of his heart. Feelings for this girl were weak compared to others, dark, but they were there. And these feelings became the only bright island in the darkness in which Sasuke Uchiha was mired. But it was precisely these feelings that once saved him. With each new meeting, they became stronger, either flaring up or extinguishing under the pressure of circumstances. It was hard. But in the end, Sasuke managed. And the transition to a new world opened up something new for him. He let Shikamaru into his heart. This guy settled there firmly and, obviously, for a long time, so Sasuke did not want to lose him. Not now. Fine. I'm not going anywhere. Shikamaru finally gave in. I'll help here because people are clearly scared. Thank you. Be careful, Sasuke. As always. He grinned, flashing his Sharingan. This will all remain between us, Shikamaru. He said, running away in the direction where his instinct led. Dream, Uchiha. Naruto took Gaara far into the forest. They ran as long as they could until the dog fell to the ground. It was some kind of clearing that Naruto learned about for the first time in her 2 lives. They must have run really far from Konoha, and she wasn't sure how long it would take to find them. Shikaku's paw began to appear in place of Gaara's hand, which was what Naruto feared most. You cannot let the raccoon completely take over your friend's consciousness, otherwise the situation will be dire. Very deplorable. I need you to touch him. I need to enter his inner world. The fox growled. Easier said than done, Databeo. Naruto channeled chakra into the seal she had on her hand. A few seconds, and the fox stands in front of the shinobi in all its glory. Jima immediately assessed the situation and looked at Naruto with all seriousness in her eyes. I have a little problem here. Uzumaki said. Small? The fox snorted. Find Sasuke. Or Kakashi. Or Obito. Just don't touch Shikamaru. It's dangerous for him here. Naruto remembers showing her summon to the team a month ago. It was the day after the contract was signed when Uzumaki remembered what Jima had said to her goodbye. The fox said that they can remember and recognize shinobi chakra. Then Naruto decided that it would be nice if Jima remembered the chakra of her teammates. It will come in handy someday. The very next day, Naruto carried out her plan. She called the fox to the training ground where her team was located. Everyone looked in surprise at Jima, who appeared next to Naruto and who subsequently sniffed everyone. Uzumaki stroked her fur goodbye, and she, looking slyly at the Uchiha, disappeared, leaving everyone on Team 10 perplexed. Of course, Naruto explained everything to them. Bring them here. Understood. Jima nodded and ran off somewhere into the forest. Sand swirled around Gaara, creating a kind of shield. Walking through sand that was flying at great speed was very painful and unpleasant. Naruto took a step towards her, but a strong current of wind significantly reduced her speed. The sand hit her face, legs and arms painfully, tore Naruto's clothes, but she stubbornly walked forward. Gaara, seeing that she was approaching him, swung his sandy hand, but only hit Uzumaki's hand. A huge scratch now shone on her shoulder, causing her quite a lot of pain. Naruto didn't pay attention to anything. Kurama tried to reduce the pain of his Jinchuriki by releasing his chakra. An orange shroud appeared around the Uzumaki. The wounds began to heal, so Naruto was more confident in overcoming the wind. The fox's cover made this task much easier for her, but the sand still hit her from different sides, as if pushing her out of this place. A few more waves of the sandy hand and thousands of grains of sand, and Naruto found herself near Gaara. The fox's cover was asleep, but Shikaku categorically did not want his Jinchuriki to be touched. Naruto fell to her knees as Raccoon's paw hit her in the face. She hissed and, taking advantage of the moment, touched Dognose hand. Her whole body was burning like, the pain on her face was getting stronger, but she didn't care, saving her friend was more important. The sand still flew around them, but no longer touched the young Uzumaki. Naruto found herself in Gaara's inner world. There was real chaos here, bright flashes, whistling, and noise, the wind was everywhere. Among all this, Naruto was able to see a cocoon of sand, which Shikaku was hitting hard. The cocoon grew larger and then smaller, but never struck back. Obviously, there was a dog in this cocoon, which thereby prevented the raccoon from completely penetrating his consciousness. A loud roar behind Naruto distracted the raccoon from this activity. Uzumaki looked at her demon, who stood on all fours, all 9 tails fluffed out. Shikaku squealed and squealed as he charged at his brother. The Uzumaki had to jump to the side to avoid getting hit. She took advantage of the moment and approached the sandy cocoon. Gaara, it's me. The sand crumbled, revealing Uzumaki his friend. A pretty tired and battered friend. What happened? I felt that the raccoon did not give up. He hasn't touched me for a long time, but obviously he hasn't accepted his fate. Therefore, he took advantage of the moment when you broke through my defense and began to influence me. Gaara explained. They definitely followed us. But before I got here, I didn't sense anyone nearby. I don't know when they will find us, but we must not let the raccoon get out. Naruto shook her head as she watched the two-tailed beasts fight. The spectacle was, of course, exciting, but Kurama was losing to some extent. He didn't have all of his power with him like Shikaku did, because Naruto had a stronger seal on him. I know one technique for containment. The girl remembered how Kushina in her home world helped her defeat Kurama in the inner world. Naruto made the seals, and 2 blue chains of chakra appeared from her hands. They flew towards Shikaku, grabbing his neck and paw. Gaara released his sand, which rose like a dome over the one-tails. Naruto yanked the chains sharply as the dome fell onto Shikaku. The raccoon squealed as it fell to the floor of the inner world. Kurama hit him with his paw, now towering over his brother. What are you doing, one-tailed misunderstanding? The fox growled, pressing the raccoon's muzzle with his paws. I need freedom. Freedom? Shikaku squealed. You need a brain. Kyubi clicked his teeth. You won't have any freedom. You will be sealed away again. What do you know? The raccoon's voice became higher and lower, which betrayed his hysteria. What are you doing here? I'm stopping you, you tailed idiot. Kurama pressed the raccoon's face harder with his paws. Naruto's technique began to subside. The chains left the demon's body alone, crawling back into the Jinchuriki's arms. The Uzumaki knelt down, breathing heavily. Gaara was also weakening, but he still held the technique. Let me go. The raccoon squealed. Leave the boy alone. The fox clicked his teeth. No. I want freedom. Gaara's technique also fell asleep, so Shikaku began to twitch more strongly. Kurama growled as his brother's paw scratched his side. Then the fox could not stand it and hit the exploded raccoon's head on the floor. And then again. Once again. Sweet dreams, Shikaku. The last thing the raccoon heard before falling asleep. Kurama, how are you? Best of all, Uzumaki. The fox answered sarcastically. It's time to end this all. I have no strength left, I won't be able to heal you. But your Uchiha is coming along with a book lover. When Kakashi-sensei, Sasuke, and Jima were in the clearing, sand was still flying around the pair of genin. It was as if a sandstorm suddenly moved from the desert straight into the forest, leaving incredible destruction in its wake. Some trees were knocked down, some were burned. Naruto and Gaara were on their knees, one part of the latter's body was completely sandy. Shikaku almost took over the genin's body. Kakashi intended to run to the aid of his student when the wind died down and the sand stopped flying. He flew back to Gaara, and the genin themselves fell unconscious to the ground. Naruto! Hatake shouted. Sasuke ran to his lover. He sat down on his knees next to her, observing a not very happy picture. The Jinchuriki had a huge bruise on her cheek, her clothes were torn, and there were small scratches and abrasions all over her body. Jima sat down next to the girl and poked her muzzle into her hand. The fox sighed heavily. Thank you. Sasuke said quietly, turning to the summoning animal. Jima nodded. I'm getting weak, I need to go. Now the Uchiha nodded, and the fox disappeared into the white fog. Kakashi approached Gaara, whose Shikaku cover had already come off. They need to go to the hospital. Kakashi said, picking up the dog in his arms. Sasuke picked Naruto up. So they ran from this clearing, at a loss as to what happened between the son of the Kazekage and the daughter of the Hokage. Naruto woke up in the hospital when the sunset was already burning out in red flashes outside the window. The birds were finishing their songs, people's conversations became quieter, everyone was preparing for the night. Naruto heard the footsteps of the hospital staff, their quiet voices, and some arguments. She sat up on the bed, no longer feeling any pain. The cheek has healed, as have all the scratches. The body did not ache from the battle experienced, there was not even a hint of pain. The girl looked around the room and herself at the same time, hospital clothes, disheveled hair that got into her eyes. The room itself was very ordinary. The bed was located almost by the window, which was extremely inconvenient in the early morning. There were 2 chairs nearby, a bedside table, and an armchair opposite, in which Obito-sensei obviously sat very comfortably. The mentor was quietly snoring, muttering something in his sleep. Naruto scanned the next few meters from the chamber. She sensed 2 shinobi in the tree and 5 more in the corridor. Hokage-sama cares very much about her Jinchuriki. He must soon be informed that Uzumaki has woken up. As Naruto felt, Gaara was lying in the next room, next to whom were Temari and Kankuro. Obito-sensei. Uzumaki called her mentor. He immediately swam out of his sweet slumber, running up to the girl and hugging her. Naruto didn't even have time to utter a word before she found herself pressed against her captain's chest. Obito kept talking and talking, but she couldn't make out anything. "Sensei, everything is fine." Naruto never thought that she would reassure her mentor. "Well, there are shocks in life. When they brought you in, I thought I would go crazy with worry." Obito exclaimed. "Who asked you to get involved in this matter? What if you were hurt worse? So I should have let the one-tail escape right in the middle of the arena?" Uzumaki asked skeptically. "But you can't cope with this alone. What did you do anyway? How did you cope? What did he do to you? Did you seal it?" The Uchiha bombarded her with questions. "First tell me no one was hurt." Naruto sighed. "Everyone is safe. As soon as you and Dog disappeared, the Hokage sent everyone to search for you. Even the genin got involved." Obito said. "They were looking for you for about an hour. You were a few kilometers from Konoha, in some clearing. You and Gaara were found by Sasuke and Kakashi. They brought you back. At the hospital, Mrs. Tsunade took care of you. Is Shikamaru okay?" "Yes, he is lying on another floor with exhaustion, but nothing serious. He will be discharged tomorrow morning. Sasuke didn't let him go looking for you, so he helped people." "Fine." Uzumaki smiled. "What happened?" "Obviously, Hokage-sama will come here now. I don't want to repeat everything several times." Naruto shrugged. She looked like water when she talked about Minato. 5 minutes later, she felt the approaching chakra of the Hokage. He himself appeared in the room another minute later. It was clear from his appearance that he was either sleeping or had just woken up when he was informed about the Jinchuriki. His hair was a mess, his clothes were a little wrinkled and fit unevenly on Minato. Naruto snorted in her head at her father's appearance. "How do you feel?" Namikaze asked in an indifferent tone. "Okay, Hokage-sama." The girl nodded her head. "What happened?" "Shikaku wanted to break free." She started. "When I broke through Gaara's defense, the One-Tails took control. I saw how he gradually took possession of the boy. Gaara stopped him and said that he couldn't hold him back for long. It was necessary to leave the arena, otherwise the One-Tail could destroy all of Konoha. I beckoned him to follow me. I wanted to take him away from people. We ran until Gaara completely lost control. The One-Tailed One began to struggle. I tried to stop him by force, but the demon was clearly stronger than me. I had to use a trick. When I got close to Gaara, I put a blocking seal on his hand. Shikaku didn't like it, so he hit me in the face. And I took advantage of his distraction and put a seal on the hearth itself. This Fuinjutsu is not the strongest, so it would not be able to stop Shikaku." Naruto sighed. "I had no choice but to wait. I hoped that Gaara would be able to suppress the One-Tails and that someone would find us." Naruto didn't lie a word about the seals. She really put them when the raccoon was distracted. so Minato won't be able to catch her in this lie. Are you really telling the truth, Naruto? I can easily arrange an interrogation because the safety of the village is most important to me. I can't believe what you said because I didn't see it with my own eyes. Has control over Fox been lost? Obviously not, Hokage-sama. Uzumaki said calmly. If this had happened, there would be nothing left of the village. You can believe me or not, your decision. You can arrange an interrogation, you won't learn anything new. Naruto could literally feel the indignation coming from Obito. He literally began to boil, listening to all the words of the sensei addressed to his daughter. He categorically did not want to put up with the fact that they wanted to hand over his student for interrogation, which could destroy her already shaky psyche. And for what? Why does Minato want to once again ruin the life of his own daughter? What does he want to achieve? Obito had been watching this girl and their family for a long time. She did not perceive Minato as a father. To her he was Hokage. And Obito was horrified by this. If his child treated him so coldly, he would do everything to earn his trust. However, the Hokage does nothing, he only pushes his daughter away from him. The Uchiha knew how happy Minato was about the birth of his eldest son, Yoichi. The father doted on his child. And he was looking forward to Naruto's birth. However, her birth was overshadowed by the Nine Tails, so the girl became a vessel from birth. That day was not only the birthday of Naruto Namikaze, but also the day of the death of the third Hokage, who sacrificed himself to save the village. What happened next? What happened to Minato, Kushina, and Yoichi, who loved their Jinchuriki daughter? Obito knows that the fox tried to escape, but he did not understand how this event could change the family's attitude towards Naruto. The girl was not to blame for this, she is just a child who fell victim to circumstances. How could they treat the girl this way, knowing that it was at such a time that she needed the support and care of her family? Minato-sensei, I will not allow Naruto to be interrogated. She's too young for that. Obito practically growled, defending his student. It's not up to you to decide. The Hokage glared at him. I won't let you interrogate. And Kakashi will support me, said the Uchiha. Minato looked at him thoughtfully in response and nodded, folding his hands behind his back. I've heard enough. Get better. With these words, Minato left the room, closing the door behind him. Naruto sighed heavily and rubbed her forehead with her hand as she lay back down on the bed. Everything is fine? Obito asked tensely. I need to go home, but Kakashi will come to you now. Sasuke and Shikamaru will come to you in the morning. No one is allowed here except Tsunade and Kakashi, and me. The ward is being watched, but I think you already understood that. Thank you, Obito-sensei. Naruto clearly didn't thank him for this whole story. She thanked him for the protection and support that she never received from her family. Early in the morning, very early in the morning, in Naruto's humble opinion, Tsunade came to her room. The sun had just come into its strength, the birds were just beginning to sing their dawn songs, and people were appearing on the streets, when Senju was already fluttering in full swing in the Uzumaki ward, simultaneously scolding Minato, Gaara, Obito, Kakashi, and in general all the people in the world, who, in her opinion, are to blame for the suffering of her goddaughter. She somehow dragged Iruka-sensei here, after which Naruto could only sigh and nod at her godmother's remarks. In the end, when each person received a couple of swear words from Tsunade, the woman began to ask the girl about her well-being and what had happened to her. Uzumaki repeated the story that Minato had told, after which she herself was attacked by Lady Tsunade. The woman left an hour later, when she was completely convinced of the student's satisfactory condition and cursed all the people known and unknown to her. She promised that she would come over with Jiraiya that evening and tell her something that she would really like. In the morning, Minato removed his people from the ward, leaving a few outside the window, so people could now come to Naruto. When Tsunade left, Uzumaki wanted to sleep some more, but she was not allowed to do so. Gaara entered the room. He smiled at Uzumaki and walked to the chair next to the bed on which the girl was lying. Did I wake you up? Tsunade did it before you. Naruto snorted. How are you? Everything is fine. Shikaku is sleeping. Reported to Sabaku. Thank you for helping me deal with it. It's not worth it. I will always help you. The girl smiled. When are you leaving? Tsunade-san just came to see me. She said that I had fully recovered, so I could go home. The Kazekage is still in Konoha, finishing up business with the Hokage after the exam, but it's time for us to go. So we're leaving in about an hour. Naruto sighed heavily. Be that as it may, it is very difficult for her to part with Gaara. Yes, they were always at quite a distance from each other, but that was hard. Having a friend, but not being able to talk, hang out, or relax together. However, thanks to this, each of their meetings was long-awaited, memorable and, to some extent, special. And Naruto knew that Gaara also greatly valued these meetings, and looked forward to them. But also said that the Kazekage and Hokage came to see him yesterday, when he just woke up. They asked what happened, if he remembered anything, if Naruto had any outbursts. Gaara, of course, remembered everything, but the Kage only said what was needed. In an indifferent tone, he told them that Shikaku wanted to break out. The last thing he remembers clearly was chasing Naruto through the forest. Then everything is as if in a fog. He knew that there were seals on it that his girlfriend had put on it, but he did not go into details. She talked with her friend for about 30 minutes, when Temari and Kankuro came into the room to take their youngest on the road. The brother and sister looked with interest at how the two Jinchuriki communicated and chuckled. Naruto thought that her room had been turned into a passageway. Hi, Naruto. Temari said. Hi. The girl smiled politely. We wanted to thank you for helping Gaara. Kankuro said, scratching the back of his head. Our communication may not have started off very well, but we are truly grateful to you. My pleasure. The girl nodded. We're glad you're okay. Temari entered. Really, Naruto, thank you. I was glad to meet you. Hope to see you again. Naruto smiled at them again. Certainly. Kankuro chuckled. Gaara and Temari nodded. It's time for us to go. Our father is already waiting for us. Be careful, okay? Naruto said softly, turning to her friend. Remember that you are strong. You are able to resist him. You take care of yourself, too. The Jinchuriki said finally, getting up from his seat. When the Sabaku no family left, Naruto sighed heavily and rubbed her eyes. People were already making a lot of noise on the street, running about their business. There were more staff at the hospital, they became louder and more active. People were constantly saying something, shouting and arguing. Someone even screamed somewhere on the floor, causing Naruto to flinch. This morning has tired her. Just as Uzumaki was about to close her eyes to fall into a sweet slumber, Sasuke and Shikamaru entered the room. Naruto literally growled because she was not allowed to sleep for the third time. First, Tsunade burst in early in the morning, then the dog family. Now her team too. Will there ever be peace in this world? We're glad to see you too, Naruto. Shikamaru grinned. Someday I'll be able to sleep. But obviously it won't be today. Naruto quipped. Shikamaru and Sasuke sat on chairs near the bed. How are you? Asked Nara. Everything is fine, but Tsunade doesn't want to let me go. Uzumaki sighed. She even let Gaara go. She's just worried about you, said the Uchiha. Besides, Gaara wasn't beaten like you were when we brought you here. Your face stood out, especially clearly a huge bruise that was beginning to swell. Perfectly emphasized your eyes. Very witty, Sasuke. Naruto replied sarcastically. Yes, Tsunade has already let me go. Nara nodded. We met Gaara, Temari, and Kankuro in the corridor. They went back home. Yes, they left me just before you. We came to say thank you and goodbye. Then team number 10 started talking about what happened. Naruto, in General Shrek's approximately like the Hokage, told them the story of the battle, and Shikamaru told them about the situation in the village. People wondered why the two genin ran away from the arena, and when Minato began to give orders, everyone succumbed to panic. People were escorted out of the arena by Chunin and Genin who did not go in search of the two Jinchuriki. The panic was suppressed quite quickly, and in the end everyone was evacuated from the fighting site. Rumors circulated throughout Konoha all day yesterday. People discussed what had happened, but today almost everything has calmed down. Only a few individuals discussed yesterday's battles, admiring the talents of the current shinobi. An hour later, Tsunade and Jiraiya entered the room. The latter began to ask about the health of his beloved goddaughter, who was simply tired of answering these questions. He began to talk about how children absolutely cannot be left alone, that they will definitely do something, destroy something, or beat someone. It's not so bad. Naruto sighed. So, we came for a reason. Tsunade announced loudly. Tsunade-bachan, do you want to discharge me? The girl asked hopefully. No, it's too early. The woman waved her off. As you know, we are leaving in a few days. We talked to Minato about taking you, Naruto, on a journey with us. And since you categorically did not want to leave without your team, we also had to negotiate for Shikamaru and Sasuke. You don't want to know how this conversation went. Jiraiya waved him off when Naruto wanted to open her mouth. But with Shikamaru and Sasuke everything was not easy. They are clan shinobi who have responsibilities. Taking them away from the village for 5 years is a huge step. Tsunade continued. I personally spoke with Shikaku, who entrusted this decision to your hands, Shikamaru. If you are ready, then he will let you go, just like the Hokage. In any case, Naruto leaves with us, Minato. After our persuasion, let her go. He also let Sasuke go, but we haven't talked to Fugaku yet. I'll deal with my father myself. The Uchiha said gloomily. You are sure? Jiraiya raised his eyebrows. Yes. I can handle. Sasuke nodded. Shikamaru, I know this is a difficult decision. Naruto said turning to her friend. Go away for 5 years to no one knows where, leave your family. So just think about it. Neither Sasuke nor I will be angry with you if you refuse. It's only your decision. In fact, I have nothing to lose, my closest people are in this room, but you are a different matter. It's really difficult. I need to talk to my father and then I will give you the answer. The guy answered seriously. We're leaving in 2 days, Shikamaru. The Hokage will frame this as a long-term mission to attract allies. Tsunade said. I hope this is enough time for you to think about everything. Thank you. Nara smiled. Naruto and Sasuke looked at each other. The issue with Fugaku remained open. However, an Uchiha will not be an Uchiha if he does not achieve his goal. He needs to leave the village in order to finally exhale for 5 long years, to breathe deeply, not bound by the chains of the clan. Shikamaru remained. But before he makes a decision, he needs to know the truth. Learn the story of Uzumaki Naruto and Uchiha Sasuke. After the Sanins told everything about the future journey, Tsunade-bachan finally discharged Naruto. Of course, there were some convincing arguments on the part of the young Uzumaki, but everything went well. Therefore, after an hour, Naruto, Sasuke, and Shikamaru walked through the village, each thinking about his own. Nara looked at the clouds. The girl still sincerely admired his ability to walk and not look at his feet. Despite all the skills of a shinobi, Naruto would definitely turn up and break something. Sasuke walked with the most calm face possible, looking only in front of him. Apparently he was preoccupied with his conversation with Fugaku. Naruto was thinking about how to tell Shikamaru everything. This definitely had to be done today because he had to think about everything. The boy already has little time. And they would have continued to walk if not for Kakashi and Obito, who literally floated up in front of them. The genin looked in surprise at their mentors, whose faces shone like polished coins. Even through the mask, the joy that Hataki's face radiated was visible. I won't even ask why you are so joyful. Shikamaru sighed. Kakashi-sensei, how did you succumb to this wave of rosy optimism from Obito-sensei? The Hokage is calling us. The Uchiha joyfully informed his students, causing them to raise their eyebrows skeptically. I still don't understand the reason for so much wild joy. Sasuke said coldly. Naruto completely agreed with him. She saw Minato last night, and this conversation was enough for her. Now you'll find out. With these words, Kakashi and Obito grabbed the students by the hands and walked towards the residence. People looked at such a peculiar company strangely, but decided not to comment on anything. You never know what's going on in these shinobis' heads. 5 minutes later, they were already in the Hokage's office, where, in addition to the head of the village himself, several more people were sitting. Naruto recognized one of them. This is Shikaku Nara, the father of her comrade. The other two, however, after a more detailed examination, were also recognized. They were Uchiha Fugaku and Hyuga Hayashi. She glanced briefly at her comrades, who were obviously also confused. As you know, the Chunin exam didn't go entirely according to plan. Minato started. But you should also know that Chunin selection is not just about winning the finals. We evaluate all your abilities, all your skills, and decide whether you are ready to become a Chunin. The Hokage nodded to himself and stood up from his seat. He walked around the table and stopped opposite the genin, who were watching all this with genuine interest. The village elders approved my decision, so with a clear conscience I award you the title of Chunin. Naruto didn't even know what was more surprising in this situation, the fact that those three were elders, or the fact that Minato appreciated their abilities. More precisely, Naruto's abilities. Uzumaki had long suspected that there were significant differences in the power of the village from her home world, but these were only suspicions. She could not painlessly find out for herself the current situation at the top of the government, so she was only at a loss. Sasuke, obviously, also knew nothing about such a castling in the council, otherwise he would definitely have told her. What happened to Danzo and the rest of the elders? Does Anbune exist in this world? There were no fewer questions, but an incredible relief settled in Naruto's chest. There was less of a problem named Shimura Danzo. At least that's what she hoped. In the exam, you proved yourself worthy of shinobi, who clearly deserve a rank higher than genin. Namake's finished. Now it's clear why Kakashi and Obito were so happy. Obviously, they were told this news earlier. This year, you are the only ones receiving this rank. Thank you, Hokage-sama. Happy to serve the village. At the same time, the no longer genin said, bowing. Minato nodded in satisfaction. You can go. Minato nodded. We'll go too, Minato. Hayashi spoke up. Since we have resolved all the issues. With these words, the three elders rose from their seats. Before leaving the office, Shikaku patted Shikamaru on the shoulder and then followed the others. Shikamaru, Naruto, and Sasuke looked after them and, bowing to the Hokage, left immediately after them. Only Kakashi and Obito were left in Minato's office. The no longer genin walked through Konoha again. This time they intended to get home and hoped that no one would stop them halfway. Of course, their hopes were not justified, because Sakura, Ino and Kiba blocked their way. Naruto sighed heavily. What you need? Shikamaru, apparently, was not in the mood, so he didn't even waste his time on politeness. We just wanted to congratulate you, said Inuzuka, causing the Chunin to freeze for a good few seconds. Your rank has been raised. This happened 15 minutes ago, how do you know? Shika raised his eyebrows. Our mentors told us. Sakura muttered. Naruto began to think that it was Asuma and Kurenai who told the genin to congratulate Team 10 on their appointment. Congratulations again. Uzumaki was once again convinced that Kiba is the most adequate. This team, because he was the only one who was truly happy for his classmates. Ino and Sakura stood with pouts and folded their arms over their chests. Thank you, Kiba. Naruto said politely. Sasuke didn't even bother to nod, which wasn't surprising to anyone. It's time for us to go. Sasuke-kun, how are you feeling after the fight with that sandstone? You were wonderful. Ino announced, obviously ignoring Naruto's words. Of course he's beautiful, Ino. How could it be otherwise? Sakura looked at her idol in love, you could literally see hearts in her eyes. His fight. Sasuke is undoubtedly beautiful, girls, Shikamaru began, earning surprised glances from Kiba, Sakura, and Ino. This is as obvious a fact as the fact that we need to go, and you are delaying us. If you have finished praising the Uchiha and congratulating our humble persons, then we will leave you. Shikamaru. Ino exclaimed, about to begin her angry tirade. Ino, we don't want to listen to your speeches at all. To the surprise of Team 7, Naruto said this, but her voice was full of coldness. Can you then continue to make angry speeches towards Shikamaru and laudatory odes towards Sasuke? We would be very grateful to you. Naruto, how are you? Haruno started it. Sakura, Ino, stop it. You're behaving like two hysterics. Kiba raised his voice. After these words, the girls frowned but did not say another word, so Team 10 walked around them and headed home. Strange day. Naruto decided that this day was somehow difficult and long, but decided to complicate it by talking with Shikamaru. She asked her comrades to come to the training ground at about 8 in the evening because they needed to talk. Nara muttered something like problematic, and Sasuke just chuckled, which Naruto took as agreement. The boys walked her to her habitat and left, quietly talking about something. Kushina and Yoichi were waiting for Naruto at home. Why her brother was not on a mission or with his team during the day, Uzumaki decided not to clarify, so she simply greeted them. Kaa-chan asked about her well-being, and Yoichi congratulated her on her promotion to rank. How did everyone know everything even before Team 10? The girl decided not to ask either. Having dined on home-cooked food rather than hospital junk, Naruto, with a feeling of satisfaction, went up to her room and lay down on her bed. She fell asleep with the hope that no one would break in here in the near future. Naruto slept until 6 o'clock in the evening, which was surprising for her. Apparently, the body was too tired from the previous days, so much so that it decided to absorb as much energy as possible from daytime sleep. The girl woke up in a cheerful mood, well-rested and ready for a difficult conversation. She had absolutely no idea how Nara would react to such an entertaining story. Of course, the boy was smart beyond his years, he was understanding, and also loved his team very much, but the news that your comrades from a parallel world could destroy everything that they had been building for several months. But Naruto knew that there had to be trust in the team for anything to happen. She wanted Shika to trust her and Sasuke as much as they trusted him, and they certainly trusted him if they decided to reveal their secret. Trust requires truth, and they will tell him this truth today. Naruto arrived at the training ground 15 minutes before the required time. She was a little worried and was freaking out at her demon, who regretted waking up at all today. After the battle with Shikaku, he needed time to regain his lost strength. Naruto thought that he would sleep for at least a couple of days, but Kurama surprised her by raising his voice as she walked to the training ground. The fox said that he had not fully recovered, but decided to test his Jinchuriki. Naruto was touched by this impulse from Kyubi. Sasuke arrived 5 minutes after Naruto. He sat down next to his beloved, pressing his hand to her hand. Uzumaki laid her head on his shoulder. The Uchiha turned his head and kissed the girl on the top of her head, thereby expressing his support and care. Have you talked to your father? The girl asked. He wasn't at home when I left. Sasuke shook his head. Don't worry about it. I'll deal. I'm worried about Shikamaru. The girl shared. The Uchiha sighed. You know we can trust him. And if Sasuke, who in life trusted only himself and Naruto, thinks so, then it really was so. Certainly. Naruto felt Shikamaru approaching the training ground. She removed her head from her lover's shoulder. Everything will be okay. the Uchiha said quietly. Naruto sincerely wanted to believe it. What did you want to talk about? Shikamaru sat down opposite Naruto and Sasuke, looking intensely at the first. Before you make a decision regarding Tsunade-bachan's proposal, there are a few things you should know. Naruto started. Sasuke, and I want you to trust us, and trust cannot be built on secrets. Shikamaru raised his eyebrows in surprise. I guessed that you were hiding something. He chuckled. We trust you, Shika, and we want you to trust us too. Sasuke entered. You make me nervous. Whatever you're going to tell me, you can trust me. We will always be a team and your secret will die with me. I love you, no matter what you have done and no matter who you are. The boy said seriously. Speak already. We are from a parallel world, Shikamaru. Naruto blurted out in one breath. Well done, Uzumaki, this is how important news should be presented. The Uchiha said sarcastically, rolling his eyes. I would try it myself. Naruto growled in response. Uzumaki? Shikamaru frowned. A parallel world? You're not serious now, are you? Looks like we're joking? Naruto raised his eyebrows. To be honest, it looks like you're kidding me. Shikamaru reasoned. We are not mocking or joking. This is true. We moved into this world about 8 months ago. Sasuke answered. My real name is Uchiha Sasuke, I am the son of Fugaku and Mikoto, Konoha shinobi, only from a parallel world. I am Uzumaki Naruto, daughter of the 4th Hokage and Uzumaki Kushina. Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, shinobi of Konoha. Said Naruto. Why Uzumaki? Your father's last name is Namikaze. My father from my homeworld died as soon as I was born. He sacrificed himself to save the village and seal the fox inside me. My mother died the same day the Kyuubi was released during childbirth. I was left an orphan, and the 3rd Hokage decided not to tell anyone that I was Namikaze by blood. She told Naruto only a small, very small part of her life. Very small. Shikamaru was silent. He looked somewhere into the distance, either remembering something or pondering an answer. Let's say I believe you, but I need details. Contrary to all assumptions, Nara said. How old are you? In our home world, we were 26. Now, obviously, we are 13 years old. Sasuke answered. 26? Shikamaru raised his eyebrows. Your mother. Tell me, because I need to know everything. This is a very long story, Shika. We had a busy life. And it was different in many ways from the one we live here. Naruto sighed. We have the whole night ahead of us. Shikamaru nodded. We'll tell you. Just answer the question, why did you believe us so quickly? At the very least, all our words sound absurd. Sasuke asked. A few years ago I came across a book. Shikamaru began. A lot of things were written there, but the only thing I remember was the story about parallel worlds. It said that some worthy people who lived an unworthy life could get a chance at a new one in another world. I thought it was impossible. That there were no other worlds, because there was no evidence. For some reason this theory stuck in my memory, even though I didn't think about it after reading it. And now that you mentioned this, I remembered the book. Shikamaru looked at Naruto, and then turned his gaze to Sasuke. And why will you come up with all this to deceive me? There's no point in lying to you. Can you find this book? Asked the Uchiha. It was several years ago. I don't even remember where I got this book. Maybe if I look, I'll find something. Nara shrugged. How terrible were your lives there? My life wasn't terrible. Naruto sighed. It was interesting, but there were so many painful events in it that I lost count. I always tried to think only about the good, to be positive and optimistic. But I could never forget everyone I lost. My life was not ideal because I grew up an orphan, I was despised and hated in the village, but I did not know why. They hid a lot from me. I didn't even know I was a Jinchuriki. And when I found out everything, my world turned upside down. I can't say that my life was full of joy. Sasuke entered. As a child, I was probably a good child, but everything changed one day. I became an orphan, and my whole life was divided into before and after. All life after is sheer gloom and darkness. I've done a lot of things. I was a nuke mean, one of the most wanted in the world. There are things I will never forgive myself and will never allow myself to forget. Your opinion of me will change when you know my story. I already realized that you were not a rainbow pony. Shikamaru nodded his head. Obviously, I was right about the night, because this story is clearly not for an hour or two. My life, it seems, will also be divided into before and after. Naruto and Sasuke told Shikamaru all the main points of their lives. They felt as if they were reliving it all themselves, because the growing pain in their chest could not be explained in any other way. Naruto's soul was torn again when the Uchiha spoke about his childhood, about his brother, and about his emptiness in his soul. She remembers how she hated Sasuke like that and how she tried to win him back. She remembers how, over time, her hatred became something else. The dark Uchiha was terrifying, but he was still an Uchiha, her best friend, her soulmate. As Sasuke spoke, Naruto choked back quiet sobs, because she shouldn't have been crying. But her feelings seemed to rise again from the depths of her consciousness, forcing her to remember everything that they had to endure. Naruto remembered that once a small part inside hated Sasuke as much as all of her now loves him. Uzumaki gives all of himself to love, so this feeling is much stronger than the hatred that lurked deep inside the girl. Some of my actions still make me regret, Naruto. Her lover once told her. But it all led me to where I am now. I will never regret some of my actions, but some will always echo in my heart with pain. The biggest mistake in my life was when I let myself down. When I was lost in my anger, in my revenge, in the darkness. These were important words for both Naruto and Sasuke. They rarely brought up the topic of the past, but when they did, they learned something new and important about their partner. How come they didn't kill you? Shikamaru asked with feeling when the Uchiha finished his life story. Believe me, it's not that easy to kill me. But many wanted to do this, don't even doubt it. Why did you want to? I'll tell you a secret, I still want to do it. Naruto grinned. Naruto also told her story. She told everything, starting with the death of her parents and ending with the victory in the Fourth Shinobi War. She did not go into detail, did not tell everything in the smallest detail, only the most important, the most basic thing that changed her forever. Shikamaru listened, sometimes asked questions, but never judged or doubted. He was simply himself, so understanding and as if he were family. What happened after the war? Nara asked, looking at the night sky. It had long since passed midnight, but the shinobi were still talking while sitting on the training ground. Sasuke had long since moved onto the tree, and Shikamaru and Naruto lay down on the grass. After the war there were missions, ANBU, rehabilitation. Sasuke just said. You are together, am I right? I always thought that one day you would be a couple, because it was the right thing to do. A few years after the war we started dating. Then lived together. The Uchiha agreed. What about your demon? Did he move with you? Yes, Kyuubi is with me. Naruto smiled. Should I introduce you? The girl asked, slyly. I will refrain, thank you. The boy refused frivolously. Uzumaki decided that when she completely freed Kurama, she would definitely introduce him to Shikamaru. It will be unforgettable. You know, there is too much information. A lot of information. We know, but we needed to tell you. You are our family, Shikamaru, so you should have known all this. I need time to sort everything out. There's a lot to think about. Understand? Said Sasuke. I won't tell anyone. Your secret, as I said, will die with me. But I have to decide what to do next. Shikamaru sighed. Give me some time. Certainly. Naruto smiled, really understanding this boy. They all need time. Sasuke's morning began with a conversation. In general, first he got out of bed, washed, got dressed and had breakfast, and then he went to his father's office, before making sure that he was at home. Itachi, whom the younger asked about this, said that Fugaku was not in a very good mood due to some problems in the clan, and advised him to go see him later. However, Sasuke decided that he would not see anything worse than what he had already seen, so with a clear conscience he did not care about his brother's advice. "Oto-san, we need to talk," Sasuke said as he entered the office. Fugaku nodded his head, not looking up from his papers. "I was just about to call you today." The Uchiha agreed.